Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel. Open mic number 200. Can you believe it? Ladies, can you believe it? 200? It's crazy.
Pretty crazy.
It is.
It just
How you
seems like
doing?
not that long ago it was 100. So
I know. Yep.
Hi, Jay.
So, hey Jay, thanks for coming. Uh-oh, Jay may not be able to hear us. May not be able to talk.
Am I on now?
Here? Oh,
There you are. Okay, cool. Yep, so tonight, hope everybody's doing well. Today, this morning, wherever you're at in the world, we're going to jump back in and just get started finishing the last two depositions. And that will complete the series on this. I've told you guys that, did you say yeehaw? I did.
No, I said I can't believe it.
I know.
We're almost through them finally.
I know. There's some that are pretty long, but yeah, the last one, Kusche is 180 pages, so there's no way we're going to finish it all tonight. But it's been an interesting read through all of them, and the takeaway. I mean, for me, the takeaway, especially after we got the documents, the reports that Amy Lehman and Deb Strauss did prior to, when they did the investigation in 2003, after Avery got out, reading through those and reading the depositions and how these people tried to act, it's really interesting because some of them you could tell they were like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there were some interesting ones for sure.
absolutely. So, but overall, I just I think the big takeaway is that there was definitely a lot of things that got brought out, but there was still so much that was buried, just buried.
Yeah.
And it's likely that we'll never know. We'll never find out.
I don't think so. Not unless somebody,
Comes steps forward.
gets steps forward or gets blackmailed or all of a sudden grows a conscience or I don't know, but it's sometimes
Yeah,
it feels like it's it's just I don't know. I shouldn't really say much because I haven't had a very positive attitude lately. So, but it just feels sometimes I can't help it. It just feels helpless. I'm not gonna lie.
I understand. I do. It's you hate to be jaded, but I am too. I mean, I admit it. I've admitted it for a long time that I've become jaded over time with some of the things that we found out, and the bigger problem is the things that we aren't allowed to see. We can't get for whatever reason. It doesn't matter the reason. If it's not in your hands and we can't read it, things that are in the case, basically almost a 20-year-old case, or at least 18 years old, whatever, and we can't get our hands on it to go through it ourselves. That's the frustrating part. Well, people say, well, that shit's not important. Well, how do you know it's not important unless you read it or see it?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, I think
So-
I actually made a comment, which I was telling Jack before we went live, everyone, that I rarely go on TikTok, or not TikTok. I never go on TikTok, Twitter or X. But I'm trying to revamp, redo my Twitter profile and things like that. So I've been on the last couple of days, just kind of messing around, and I happened to catch a couple of I don't know, probably older posts from Mr. Kratz, and so I responded to him, and that I think that was one of them where he was something about yeah, there were mistakes made, but after we reviewed it and blah blah blah, we determined that it wouldn't have changed the outcome. And I'm like, well, who's deciding that? Who's deciding whether or not it'll change the outcome? Isn't that what the jury is supposed to decide? I mean, why do
That's
you
right.
why do you get to choose what is and the same thing was said at Daniel's direct appeal, that anything that, that, yeah, this mistake was made and this judge this or this judge that, but it wouldn't have changed the outcome. Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't Daniel's. It was in the book that we were reading, Cherie, Death and Justice. There was some cases like that, and I'm just like, who makes one person, particularly a judge
Judge
or
and
a
jury.
prosecutor, get to decide that? It's just it's frustrating, but yeah. Anyway.
Well, it seems like it, that kind of thinking, it walls everyone else off. Like your opinion doesn't matter, your thoughts don't matter, your how you think this would have went doesn't matter. I can see it better than you, so it wouldn't have changed anything. Well, yeah, I think maybe it would. Of course, they've used this excuse extensively. Josh Call and Lisa Comfort in the last several replies. This wouldn't have changed the opinion of the jury. Well, yeah, I think it might have.
You don't know. Yeah, you don't know that. You can't say that.
No.
Sorry.
No. I'm talking about, you think about the Sawinski affidavit, or if he'd have, been on the stand to testify. Hey, I saw blah 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 on the morning of April 5th on the salvage yard. This was, and ... That's a problem, Yeah, I think they might have. I think that might have affected the jury in a very strong way, one way or the other, right?
Sure it would.
Yeah. So, anyway, we haven't been doing this, but I think today we will, since it's the 200th episode. Rhonda, can you welcome everyone that's joined us so far, that said hello in the live chat?
You bet. So first we have Veronica Clack, and we have Gloria, and Tony, and Catnip. Catnip, it is great to see you in the chat, dropping links, making jokes. We're ready for it. I Don't Recall is in the chat and on the panel. Nan's Life 7 is in the chat. True Crime Fangirl is also in the chat. Great to see you. Pete Moss is with us in the chat. Scooby the Dog, my friend, is in the chat. Fabulous to see you as well. Anthony Hills is here. It's so great to see you, Anthony. And Rhonda SD, my friend from the UK. It's great to see you in the chat also. Cam Sutherland is a name that I'm not familiar with, but I have been gone for a couple of weeks. Welcome, Cam. And Ronald D. Cast from the Missouri Ozark is in the chat. It's great to see you, Ron. And Under Your Scars is throwing out some waves. Donna Wolfwich is in the chat. Stuart King. Colette M. Great to see you, Colette. And let's see. Who did I miss? JD is in the chat. JD is also on the panel. Justine J is in the chat. And Nosy Wren is in the chat. It's great to see you as well, Nosy. I haven't seen you for a while.
Yep.
So I think I got everyone.
I think you did. Well, the interest to, the depositions, it's a different animal. You got to want to understand things prior to, October 31st, 2005. I mean, this is, we're you can see where we're at right now. This is the last one on the 13th, and then we're going to be doing Kushe's. This is the 26th, which is literally 5 days prior to everything changing, basically. I mean, we nailed the 31st. Really, they say things happen on the 31st, and that's kind of the, putting the nail in the calendar. But really, the ball didn't really start rolling until the 3rd, as far as what we see officially, right? So, but the 31st is right around the corner from Kushe's deposition. And before we start, I will make a comment. Twitter, Rhonda brought up Twitter. We've talked about it actually quite a bit before we started the live tonight. And Mr. Kratz has made several more comments, and I haven't read all of his comments. So, but I was actually looking for one comment, and I found another. And Ooh, who we have? Is that Kay? Look at there. There's Kay.
Hey now. Hello. Sorry I'm late.
No, it's fine. That's
Stacy's
fine.
fault.
Oh, hi, Stacy.
Blame the husband. That's all right.
Out band rehearsal out of town. So.
Oh well, okay.
All right.
Anyway, trying to, myself and Juke and Doc and TikTok. There's been several of us that have really asked Mr. Kratz several serious questions. We're not trying to play games. We're not trying to yank his chain. Nothing like that. But this is the way he's taking it. Or even worse, he won't answer at all. The question has been brought up at least now since he really came back with all the stuff happening in the Wisconsin Law Journal. I began asking him, and I know Duke was asking him questions too right after this, but I asked him pretty quickly after this got started about the blunt and bloody object and this unfiled search warrant, but he won't really address it. He posted something, he made a comment about search warrants, but it really had nothing to do with that one at all. He will not touch it, and it's really frustrating. He talks like he wants to answer questions and get information out there, but I'm not seeing this exchange. It's just not working. He wants to give an answer in the way he wants, or in what he wants to talk about. He doesn't want to directly answer your questions because, yeah, I know there's people out there that want to play gotcha with him. I understand that, but there's a whole other group that don't have time for that shit. I don't, and I know Duke don't. I know Dr. Silkman is not interested in that either, and others. Same thing. So anyway, it's been an interesting last couple of weeks on X for those that use that platform. Not everyone does, but anyway, do you want to have a little bit of reading material that maybe you haven't been around? Subscribe to get yourself a little free subscription to X and dive in, because it's been interesting. I will say that. As far as answering questions specifically, no, I really haven't seen that. I've seen some answers, but they were not really answering the questions that were asked. I know Nosey's been on there, and I see her in here. She's been on there. She's seen it too. It's been really interesting. Anyway.
Well, and James Crane, before we get started real quick, James Crane says, question, why does that surprise you with Kratz? It doesn't.
Well,
it really doesn't, but no.
At the same time, though, after being basically gone off of his name, I'm not saying he was gone, but his name was unpresent as him being on Twitter for 5 years, and he comes back and he acts like he wants to answer questions.
Yeah.
So I just took him at his word that that's what he wanted, and he wanted this exchange of information. He's got questions, too, that he wants to ask, the truther community.
Right.
So.
But he wants to control that as well. I mean, he just, it can't be one side controlling.
No.
Each side has to be willing to, to be transparent and honest. And he
That's right.
Kratz has always been a master manipulator, from my recollection, and he's no different now. Scooby the dog is asking. Sorry.
That's a great question. Are you guys sure that really is really the real KK on Twitter? Well, I'm gonna talk about this. I really haven't talked publicly about it because, I just didn't, and it's not in trying to hide anything or anything like this, because it was a private DM, but it's not really a private matter. So several weeks ago, and this was about, I don't know, a week, I think maybe before Kratz, this person on Twitter approached New Scott, he DM'd me. And he wanted to do us, Foul Play, to do this Q&A exchange. Okay. Well, I was really kind of taken back a little bit because, we're just a small truther group. We have our own little community. If he's got, let's do a Q&A, why wouldn't he approach a larger type organization? I mean, his name is known worldwide. And I'm not saying that we're nothing or nobody. I'm just saying his name's out there. Our name is not, I mean, a lot of people know about us, but, we're not in league with, and we're not trying to be in league with, a lot of these big names, but nonetheless, moving forward. So it was supposed to be, send me 5 questions. I'll send some replies or something like that. And, I'm just really guarded at this point because people have yanked our chain before. I've had my own chain yanked several times. So my guard is already up about, is this really Ken Kratz? Because I don't know. It's the internet, right? It's the internet, dummy. Anyway. So I said, this is something that the group is going to have to talk about and decide. It's not just my decision. If everybody wanted to do it, and others, and I didn't, the majority rules. We take a vote. Anyway, so I said, look, I'm gonna let everyone know about this, but you're gonna have to identify yourself. I don't know who you are. I don't know you. This is the internet, stupid. I didn't say stupid, but this is the internet, ... And anyway, I let everyone know, and just to be quite honest with everyone, I really wasn't in favor of doing it. And it's not because I want to not let him talk. I'm not trying to censor anyone, but he has his own platform. There's other mechanisms to talk, and just to be quite honest, not to reveal too much anything, but really, not any of us were really interested in doing this for the same reasons. And it's not, again, it's not to censor anyone. It just didn't feel like a right fit. Anyway, he answered me back and he says, well, I'm not doing an audition for you. Well, I'm not asking you to do an audition. I'm asking you to prove who you say you are to me, to my satisfaction, before we move forward. Otherwise, this is where we are. I'm not doing anything unless I know that this is you, Ken Kratz. And it would have taken, there were multiple ways to do this, but a simple voicemail to me, reading something that I typed to him on Twitter would be very simple to do. It'd be private. The message would get deleted. Done. It's you. No problem. He refused. So that was that. I don't know why. I was, well, you take it for what it's worth. It appears to be him, the way he types and talks. He's done a couple of webisodes now, or whatever you want to call it, on his own channel. He's doing his own little thing, and that's fine. He did more power to him. But so my guess that it probably is him. But anyway, go ahead, Rhonda.
From what I understand from New Scott, he did his own verifications as well, and I don't know what those were.
No.
And he said that he felt comfortable that it was him. So I don't know. Is that wrong? I guess I could.
No, I conversed with New Scott about this, and he told me that he did verify him, to his satisfaction. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's great. Do what you need to do, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, I was one that was not in favor of giving him any attention whatsoever. And I just want to put this up here from Ronica. I know she says we need a Q&A with Kratz. If it really is him, we need answers answered. And I know, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. But my thought is, he's never going to answer. I mean, it's clear just by the way he deflects every single comment and question on Twitter that I've seen lately, that he's never going to answer the questions. And if he gives a straightforward answer, you know, we're going to have to take it with a grain of salt anyway. He's never going to be honest with us. Like Jack,
Well,
I am so far jaded that I just have very little trust in him. And I just don't feel like, you know, giving him a bigger stage to try to attempt to make the rest of us, or not that I think he could, because he can't, but I mean, I think we know more about the case than he does, quite honestly. So I don't know. Yes, answers are what we're like so thirsty for, but I just don't feel like we'll ever get real answers from him. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
well, just based on what I've seen on Twitter, I tend to agree. But again, you know, there are people that will go after him and they will try to trick him, and I get that. And so I'm sure he's probably got both arms and both legs up, you know, trying to deflect, and I get that. I do. At the same time, there are people out here that really want straight answers of what you know, and if you don't know, just say, "I don't freaking know, man." Like this blunt and bloody object. I got to tell you, again, this is just speculation. I'm not trying to put any thoughts in anyone's heads out there. But this blunt and bloody object at the crime lab that was found on the 6th, was he even told that this thing was found, whatever the hell it is? I don't know. I'm beginning to suspect he wasn't, but I don't know that. This is suspicion. But you know, it's I'm like you, Rhonda. I'm pretty jaded, but I've tried to step back from that and, you know, give that other voice, you know, that opportunity to speak. But from what I've seen on Twitter, it's just not going to happen. It's unfortunate too. So anyway, yeah, I understand, Veronica, what you said. We do need answers, but I just don't think questions about, you know, this unfiled search warrant. There are many others. The zipper voicemail. We have the exhibit list that was printed in January of 2007, and the zipper voicemail is on that exhibit list. Okay, we're a month before trial, but he said on Twitter he doesn't know anything about it. That this is a reply. You can find it on his Twitter feed. One of the comments he made. I don't know anything about it. Stop asking me. Was on your exhibit list a month before trial. How can you not know anything about it? That's really strange to me. Did you not prepare the exhibit list? It's yours. You're going to trial in 4 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was one of the few of his responses that I, jumped in on. I just said, you know, if we can't ask you, then who are we supposed to ask? You know, if we want an answer, we want a response. Who the hell are we supposed to ask?
Right.
You can't ask the specter on the fucking case.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. Well, you know, as I've said before, there's a member of the community that sent an email to the DOJ back right after this was released, and 100 plus emails later, there's still no response, or no. Well, there's been a response, but no answers. Nobody knows. No.
Nobody knows anything
Nope.
about this huge, massive case that has taken over the true crime, community. It's just crazy.
It is. Anyway, so all right, let's get started here. Let's make a jump in. Where the hell am I at here? So as you can see here, this is you can see right here, 22 minutes. This is a very short deposition. I basically remember a little bit of this, but it's been a while since I've read this one. Just like all the others, I haven't just sat down and read them again recently. So let me zoom this up just a little bit. If anybody has any new used eyeballs for sale that they're not using right now, let me know. Bionic would be good.
I have three. I have my natural eyes, which aren't worth a shit, and I have my eyes that can't see close up, and then I have my eyes that can't see far away. So
Yeah, I've got my reading glasses on. I can actually read this.
I can
So
read. I have my bifocals now, but
yeah.
still.
So we got Glenn and Kelly, Covelli, and Bascom. We'll make a decision on who's going to read what. I don't want to put anybody in. And we can switch off later if need be. Pollen and Mayer, and then Avery. So no extras and no exhibits mentioned in or presented in this little short deposition. So, Rhonda, are you okay with reading?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can see when I've got my corrective lenses on, so I'm good.
What about you, Cherie? Are you okay with reading?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, Rhonda, if you can do Glenn, and Cherie, if you can be Colborn. That okay? And
Yes.
then I'll do Covelli and Bascom, and Jay, can you read?
Yeah, not a problem.
Can you do Pollen and Mayer?
No problem at all.
Thank you so much. All righty, let's make a start. And if we break, well, I mean,
do you have somebody for Kay? I mean, if she wants to read.
Oh, don't worry about it. Carry on, guys. No big deal at all.
Just
I read all the time.
Yeah, well, we've got another huge deposition right after this one, so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'll let you rest, I guess.
Yeah, the first thing, if the reporter, I generally do that one anyway, so I think we'll be okay. But, as always in the comments, if you have a comment or a question, try to pop it in there and we'll break and I'll try to scan back up and see if there's anything. I mean, this is just more informational kind of thing, but if you think of something you want to talk about it, put it in comments. Anyway, ladies, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm just going to read off of your screen, off the StreamYard screen, okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. By Mr. Is this Glenn or Kelly? Mr.
Glenn. Yep.
Okay. By Mr. Glenn. Sergeant Colborn, my name is Steve Glenn. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm here along with Walt Kelly on behalf of Steve Avery. First, you have in front of you a document that doesn't bear a sticker, but I'll represent to you that that's a photocopy of Exhibit 138 that's been earlier marked in these proceedings, okay?
Yes, sir.
Have you had a chance to look at that document today?
Yes.
Have you seen it before today?
Yes.
Can you tell me when the last time before today is that you saw that?
I believe when I penned it, when I authored it.
Okay. And from that time until today, you don't think you've seen it?
I take that back. I had a Thursday, I believe, of last week or Friday of last week, I was shown this document by Amy Doyle.
As part of an interview with her?
Yes.
Essentially prepping you for testimony here.
Yes.
Okay. Did she show you anything else besides this document?
I don't recall. I don't believe so.
Okay, well, let me ask you a couple of background questions and then we'll go into the document. And actually, let me start with the first sentence of the document because that's part of the background. It says that in 1994 or 1995, you were working as a corrections officer in the Manitowoc County Jail, correct?
Yes, sir.
How long had you been working as a correction officer in the jail?
I was hired in January or February of 1992, so roughly 2 or 3 years. I had been employed as a corrections officer in the jail.
Prior to that time, had you had any job connected with the jail?
Prior to 1992?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Had you had any law enforcement job prior to that?
No, sir.
Okay, so in the time period that's discussed in this memo, which is 94 and 95, Do you recall whether you were in the custom or practice of keeping notes in a logbook, in a memo book, in any data form?
Prior to this,
At this time,
at this time,
at this time, in 94 and 95.
there was a computer daily log that you typed significant events that occurred in the jail, but it was a log that pertained specifically to the jail. I did not keep a written notebook or notes of any kind in the capacity as a corrections officer.
Okay, so short of this computer entry, which would have been intended to relate to activities in the jail, you did not record events that occurred at your work. Is that correct?
Only events that were occurring in the jail. Like you may have a prisoner on a suicide watch. There would be a written hard copy of why that prisoner was on a suicide watch and what he was doing during the course of his day.
Sure.
But outside jail business, no, there's no log.
How about your own private diary or calendar, memo book, or anything like that?
No, I usually keep my appointments in my head and I don't keep a diary or a journal.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, you've gone over what is Exhibit 138
Yes, sir.
today and earlier, correct?
Yes, sir.
It describes you receiving a telephone call from someone who identifies himself as a detective, correct?
Yes.
Waiting for the scroll, waiting for the scroll.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
Scroll. Okay,
Give me just 1 second.
you're fine. So, Oklahoma City Thunder are playing in the NBA playoffs right now. So, good luck to Oklahoma City.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know everybody's thrilled about it. I think I'm the only NBA fan.
Let me just say this: who cares?
I know. I'm just trying to talk. The silence is very awkward for me. So. Okay, somebody's got to say something. Come on, you guys.
I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just in time.
Rhonda was going to go on a rant, and nobody wants that.
Where you at? Line 18?
Yes,
Oh,
I think so.
18.
I don't know. I got distracted.
Yeah. I think it was line 18 for the question.
Okay. All right. Line 18. And am I correct in understanding that at the time you wrote this memo, which is September 12, 2003, you could not recall with certainty what law enforcement agency that detective was associated with?
That's correct.
I hear your machine clicking. Does that mean anything to you?
I'm okay.
Turn your damn phone off. You're in a deposition.
Radio. He's probably got his radio on.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead operating on the theory that if your machine is going off and it matters, you'll tell us.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That would be great.
All right. With respect to this report, it says, quote, receiving a telephone call in the central control area, end quote. What is that? Part of the jail?
Yes, sir.
And there's another report prepared by a Lieutenant Lank.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you know if you've seen that report?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you discussed this matter with him, I assume?
The fact
Object to the form vague as to time.
Anytime prior to today, have you had a conversation with Lieutenant Lank about the matter that is discussed in this statement?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall in that conversation learning that at least he had the belief that this was related to Brown County, or at least thought it might have been related to Brown County?
He never relayed that information to me, so I don't know.
Let me show you what's been marked as Exhibit 125 and ask you to take a look at that. Have you seen that before, or do we need to give you a chance to read it?
I've never seen Lieutenant Link's statement. No.
Okay. Then let's just go off the record and give him a chance to read it.
Off the record for 1 minute, back on the record.
Have you had a chance to read Exhibit 125?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall telling Lieutenant James Lank that the person from whom you received the telephone call was a detective and that you thought he might have been from Brown County?
Actually, I thought I had told Lieutenant Link that I thought the individual was from Sheboygan County, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, so as of today, here we are in October 2005. You're not sure what you told Lieutenant Lank back in 2003 with respect to the county?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. At any rate, what the subject matter was of this person's call was a statement apparently made to the caller by a person who was in the caller's custody. Is that correct?
We're going back to 94 or 95.
Sure.
I'm a little gray on exactly.
And you can answer your own report, and you can use your own report, Exhibit 138, to refresh your recollection if that helps you.
I don't know if the person, I gathered, yes, that they had someone in custody. I don't know if this person had commented directly to the person who called me or had commented to other people within that jurisdiction, and this eventually got to my caller.
But the detective indicated that there was a person in custody who had made a statement about a Manitowoc County offense, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what that person in custody had said was that he had committed an assault in Manitowoc County and someone else was in jail for it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that much you're pretty sure of, correct?
Yes.
I mean, that's a significant event.
Right. That's what stood out in my mind.
Sure. And you knew by September 12, 2003, that Stephen Avery is someone who had been in jail for an assault that he had been convicted of, correct? Had been in jail.
Yes.
He was recently released by then.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you knew that someone else had committed that crime, Gregory Allen, that was in the media as well, correct?
Yes.
And so one of the things you believed was that there may be a relationship between the Gregory Allen matter and this telephone call, correct?
Are you talking about 2003?
In 2003, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Sure. And fact of the so again, as reported in the media, Mr. Allen, at the time of Mr. Avery's being released by the court, had been convicted of a sexual assault in Brown County and sentenced to prison, correct?
That whole portion of it I wasn't aware of.
Okay.
I am now. It's 2000 or it's 05. At the time of 03, I really can't say I was like following the case. So I knew the name that you mentioned had come up, but I didn't know where he was incarcerated, if he was incarcerated, what his status was.
Have you seen any of the reports of the district attorney's office indicating that it would not be prosecuting Mr. Allen for the crime on which Mr. Avery had been exonerated due to the fact that a statute of limitations had run, and in any event, Mr. Allen was serving a 60-year sentence?
I can't recall viewing
any of that?
No, viewing any reports from the district attorney's office. No, sir.
And I'm not really talking about reports at the moment, sir. I'm including any source, media, and by that I mean television, radio, newspapers, talk around the sheriff's department, talk in your own household, anything.
Certainly in the media.
Okay.
I mean, there was a lot of media coverage on this case, and certainly I probably got most of the information that I knew about the case through the media.
Sure. I mean, you yourself hadn't had any involvement in the Avery prosecution or investigation, correct?
I wasn't even in this country when that occurred.
Sure.
I was stationed overseas in the military.
And when you came back and were involved in 94 and 95 as a corrections officer, you were not otherwise working as a deputy sheriff, correct?
No, sir.
So you hadn't had any involvement in any of the, whoa, what happened?
Uh-oh.
Sorry. So you hadn't had any involvement in any of the post-conviction investigative efforts with respect to Mr. Avery's case.
No, sir.
So your sources of information would necessarily have been media type sources, correct?
Correct.
Okay. At any rate, you recognize this was significant enough that you should forward that call that was coming in from another detective to someone in the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department to take it further, correct?
Yes, sir.
It wasn't within your jurisdiction to take it any further, correct?
No, sir.
And even if you had wanted to, you didn't have the legal authority under your job duties to do that.
Correct.
So what you did was to give the calling detective a telephone number for a Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office detective, correct? Or the Detective Bureau?
Right. I believe I would have just given him that number in case. I'm sure I tried to transfer the call
Okay.
because that would have been the protocol that was required, as my job. But I got into the habit of, since that's sometimes iffy, I would have given him the number of who I was trying to transfer it to.
So let me see if I understand that, because I think all of us at one time or another have had their calls transferred. And sometimes people give you a number in advance of the attempt to transfer and say, in case we lose each other or the call doesn't go through, the number to call is such and such. Is that the way you were doing it?
Yes.
Okay. So you gave the person the number and then attempted to transfer the call. And do you know whether the call went through to the other detective?
I don't know. I didn't hear somebody pick up, but as soon as the phone rang, I would have hung it up.
Okay, because at that stage, again, you've given the person the contact information if he chooses to follow up, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever make any inquiries of anybody in the Detective Bureau to find out whether they had received such a call?
No, sir.
Or did you ever hear any feedback from anybody about
No, sir.
whether they had gotten such a call?
No, sir.
Okay, so that's what's going on in 2003, correct?
No, the call.
I'm sorry, that's what's going on in 94, 95.
Yes, sir.
You then, in 2003, following the publicity that we've already discussed relating to Mr. Allen and Mr. Avery, and you're concerned that perhaps the caller that was calling was speaking about Mr. Allen and Mr. Avery, true?
I was wondering about that. Yes.
Sure. You brought that up to someone else, correct?
Yes, sir.
And to whom did you bring that up?
To Lieutenant Link.
And you and Lieutenant Link had a conversation about it?
Yes, sir.
And in that conversation, is it safe to say that you told him what's reflected in Exhibit 138?
Yes, sir.
There was also a conversation that followed that in which you spoke to Sheriff Peterson, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall that Lieutenant Link was there as well?
When I spoke with Sheriff Peterson?
Yes. Was he or not? Do you know?
No, he was not.
He was not. Okay. Who all was there when you talked to Sheriff Peterson? Do you remember?
I don't recall who was in the room. I remember coming into work. Sheriff Peterson was downstairs where our patrol division is, and I got the impression he was waiting for me to come into work. There were other people coming in and out of the room, but I don't recall who.
Do you know what it is that gave you the impression he was waiting for you? I mean, did he come right up to you or ask you to come with him or something?
I usually don't have contact with the sheriff, so that's what gave me the impression he was waiting for me.
And when you and he connected that day, what happened? I mean, did you say something to him? Did he say something to you?
No, he initiated the conversation by saying he had spoken with Lieutenant Link, and he felt that it would be in the best interests of Lieutenant Link and myself and the sheriff's department, I would suppose, that if I was to give him a statement on the gist of our conversation and what we had discussed. And I asked for clarification on that, and he goes, well, what you discussed about a telephone call that you received while you were working in the jail. And I said, okay. And before I went out on patrol, I provided this statement.
Do you know what time your patrolling duties were then?
Well, I worked from noon to 8, but as a shift commander, there's sometimes I don't get out on the road until 2 or 3 o'clock, depending on what sort of administrative or office duties I have.
So if you look toward the upper right-hand portion of that exhibit 138, you see a time of 1330 hours. Does 1:30 seem like about an appropriate time?
Yes, sure.
And that would have been immediately after your conversation with Sheriff Peterson.
No, I believe my conversation with Sheriff Peterson would have been like at 11:45 or 12.
Okay. Well, when I say immediately after, I mean within an hour or two.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Same day as the conversation.
Oh,
okay. Sorry, that's my fault.
Same day as the conversation with Sheriff Peterson.
All right. And do you recall any further conversations with Sheriff Peterson about this subject matter?
No.
How about any meeting with District Attorney Rohrer about this subject matter? And again, I mean the subject matter of Exhibit 138 that we've been discussing.
No, I've never had a meeting with the district attorney about this.
Okay. How about an assistant district attorney named Mike Griesbach?
Never had a meeting with Mike Griesbach about this.
Have you ever had any conversation with anybody else other than Sheriff Peterson and Lieutenant Lane about the subject matter of Exhibit 138? Ever discuss it with anyone else, any other officers, any friends, any family?
Not that I can specifically recall. I may have mentioned it to other people, but I don't recall doing it.
That is, as you're sitting here today, you don't have any specific recollection of discussing it with anybody else.
No, sir.
But you're not ruling out the possibility that you may have discussed it.
No, I'm not ruling out the possibility that I may have discussed it with someone else, but I can't specifically tell you names of people I may have mentioned this to.
Okay. I think that's all I have. That's all. Thanks.
Mr. Bascom, I just have one question because I'm confused about the testimony concerning Sheboygan County versus Brown County. And I wasn't sure if I heard you correctly. Let me just ask you this question. You said, quote, Sheboygan County, but I'm not sure, end quote. And my question is it that you heard that you think the detective that called you was from Sheboygan County, but you're not sure? Or that you told the Lieutenant Link that you thought the guy was from Sheboygan County, but you're not sure? Do you see the difference between those two questions?
Sure.
And I'm not sure which way your answer was aiming.
I can't recall the specifics of my conversation with Lieutenant Link. I may have said he was either from Sheboygan or Brown County. I don't know because I don't know. And I don't know why those two jurisdictions stand out in my head, other than that is the area or outside jurisdictions that we have the most contact with. being centered between the two of them. I don't know if that answers your question.
As we sit here today,
As it pertains to Lieutenant Link,
no, as we sit here today,
okay.
do you have a sense or feeling that the guy was from Brown County or Sheboygan County, or don't you know?
I really don't know, sir.
That's fine. That's all I have.
Nothing else.
Great, thanks. And that's it. Told you it was short. Wouldn't take long.
Woohoo.
Interesting. It's an
Well,
interesting.
Brown County was where Alan was, so it makes sense that it wasn't he? Isn't that where? And I guess he wasn't. That's where he got arrested, at least.
That's where he
Yeah.
was eventually arrested and that in 95, I think it was, or 90. I think it was 95 or 96, whatever. But
Okay.
he was all over the region. But he forgot about Calumet. They're next door too. I think
Yeah.
to the south is maybe Door County. I know Allegheny County is not too far away. So I guess, but I'm not going to get off on a big tangent on this phone call because I'll get mad again, and I don't want to do that. But it's kind of important to maybe understand where the call came from. To me, it is Sheboygan or Brown County, and the detective, who was it, and who was the detective talking to that made this statement. That's really important. And I just
Right. And it's an answer that we've never had.
no,
So
and likely never will.
Yep, never will. If we haven't by now, from the Brown County detective, it's just kind of stuck in my mind all these years that there's been, or at least as far as we know, there's been no contact from this ghost detective in Brown County. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird to me. But I don't know.
It is to me too, and I don't know. I guess at that point in time, and I can't speak for Glenn and Kelly, but and I don't know if they had an investigator. I would imagine these guys have been around a long time. I would imagine they did. That it wasn't investigated, or maybe they tried and couldn't get anywhere with it. I just don't know. I've thought about that. The trail would have been much fresher than, of course, years later. Here we are now, trying to find out that information. I'm sure those records probably have been purged at this point in time because of retention, unless they're sitting in some case file, right?
Yeah, that
Sorry,
we'll
I had to
never
get a
get
drink.
access to.
No, that's right. Well, that was another thing that let me close this out. I don't need that one open anymore. That was another question that came up in this stuff going on X with Kratz. And I can't remember what the question was, but I think it did. I know what it was. It retained to Gregory Allen, and later on, I'm gonna pose the question to Mr. Kratz. Do you know anything about what Gregory Allen did to that woman in Hennepin County, Minnesota in 1991? Are you aware of it? See if I get an answer. I doubt he'll answer me, but who knows? Anyway, so we're down to the last one. Down to and you can see it's 198 pages. I'm guessing there's probably going to be 20 plus pages of index, so we're probably looking at least 170 pages, something like that. We're not going to try to finish this tonight, so we're not even going down that road. We'll do a part 2 at some point. I'll probably try to wrap this up as soon as I can, sometime during the week or next Sunday, and knock this completely out, and we'll be done with it. So, but we'll read for a bit. It's just before 7 my time, so we've not been here quite an hour yet. But before we do that, let's check the chat to see if there's anything going on. Let me pop this off the screen for a second.
Let me just post this last comment I see that I completely agree with. Nan's
I
Life
declare-
7 says, yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Nan's Life 7 says, I declare bullcrap. It isn't like both counties are spelled or sound similar. How does one confuse the two?
Well,
I agree.
he said, didn't he say split in the middle, kind of between, and I guess they are, Sheboygan County's to the east, Brown County's to the northwest. I'm sorry, yeah, well, west-northwest, I guess you'd say. It's a little above Manitowoc there, so I guess they're kind of there, sort of in the middle-ish area. I don't know.
Right, but if you're just going by the name of one of the, of the county, I kind of agree with Nan's Life. I would feel like, I don't know, but I've never been in that seat. I don't, maybe he's being legit. Who knows? I mean, I can't really see it, but.
Right. Right.
I mean, unfortunately for Colby, I don't believe anything that he says. So, anyway.
Well,
Just my opinion.
Well, I will mention it again. It doesn't have anything to do with Colborn, but we're fixing to start into Kusche, and I've actually linked in the description. I talked about it last week. I've talked about it a couple of times. Kusche, of course, back in the mid '90s, he was the head dude, and he did an interview of 3 of these detectives that we have recently read: Fred Nicholson and Jadowski. I don't remember his first name, and oh god, I can't remember the other guy's name. But regardless, it's just interesting that he interviewed these 3 detectives. Kalansky, that's his name. Or Kalanzik, that's his name.
Kalanzik, yeah.
Yeah. He did an interview of these 3 detectives back in '96, I think that report's dated. Like I said, it's in the description of the video. Why he would feel the need to do this interview is just, I don't know. To me, it's a little strange.
Yeah, it's
So
all strange, but okay. We say that every
Right.
time.
Well, because it is, unfortunately. Yeah. Hold on, just give me just 1 second here. I'm pulling something up. Okay. 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 Well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to put this back on the screen and we can get started. And we'll go through the list just like we did before. So 10/26, October 26, 2005, as I said, 5 days prior to everything going to hell in a handbasket. Let me zoom this up again. I'm sure it's going to be the same players, Glenn and Kelly. Oh, we have a new one here. Well, Amanda Kaiser. Okay. I'm sure we got Bascom and, Cavelli's not there. It doesn't look like we got Bascom, Pollen. Here's another new one. Terry Weber. Who is that? On behalf of Tom Withoric. Okay. Well, we got a few new names here. Okay. So, if you 2 want to continue reading for a while, and like I said, if we're not going to finish this, that's fine. If you want to take a break and have others read, that's okay too. But it's up to you 2 where I go from there.
Well, that was pretty short.
Yep.
And is it Kelly that does this questions? Because if it's Kelly, well, I'll read anyway. It doesn't matter, but I really like Kelly.
It is Kelly.
Okay. Yeah. Like reading Kelly because he's really snarky.
He is.
I don't have to do any acting.
Right. Sheree, are you okay with reading, or do you want to break off and?
I'm okay. I'm fine with it. I can do
Okay.
it.
Well, okay. So you two can do Kelly, Rhonda, and Sheree. You can do Kusche. Did your best voice. Kidding. Uh, I'll do Bascom, and Jay, if you can do Pollen, and Kay, if you can do this lady, Terry L. Weber. I don't remember ever seeing her before. This name just doesn't look familiar. If you can do Terry.
Sounds good.
Okay with that, Jay?
Not a problem for me.
Excellent. So there's a couple of exhibits that get shown in this one. Looks like, three besides the subpoena. So the framed composite and 2 mugshots. Wow. I'd like to have those. Interesting. Anyway. Alrighty. You ladies can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. By Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kusche, my name is Walter Kelly, as you heard. I'm one of the 2 lawyers representing Stephen Avery, and I'm going to have some questions for you today that encompass the period of time since his case, the case against him involving the assault of Penny Berntsen in the mid-1980s and right down to today. Have you ever been deposed before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you're familiar
Sure.
with the basic principles. Would you tell me your current address, please?
My current address is 2001 South 10th Street, Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
And what's your phone number at home?
920-684-7095.
And would you tell me your date of birth and age, please?
January 26, 1946. I'm 59.
And as I understand it, you're retired from the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department?
That's correct.
When did you retire?
May 10th, 2003.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 153. Ask you to take a moment and examine that.
Yes,
You recognize that to be a copy of the subpoena that was served on you for your testimony here today?
that is correct.
And that was a result of a conversation between you and me involving the establishment of a time and date for your testimony.
That's correct.
Okay. There's a request for the production of documents and things as part of that subpoena. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you brought anything today in response to that?
Yes, sir.
What have you brought?
I brought a composite sketch framed with a photograph from that case and a photocopy of a mugshot of Gregory Allen.
Okay. Let's take a moment and mark those.
There's also a copy of the order releasing a copy of the composite sketch to Mr. Kusche, I assume.
Okay.
Well, you can look at it, but I don't think you'd want to mark that.
Let's go off the record for a moment, Barbara.
Off the record for 2 minutes. Back on.
By Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kusche, I have one large framed photograph and a composite drawing, and I'm going to ask your counsel if we could bring that up on the table and put it in camera range. And then I'm going to ask you just a few questions about it.
Yes, sir.
We've marked this as Exhibit 154 on the back, and you brought that today in response to the subpoena, Exhibit 153. Is that right?
That's correct.
On the front of this exhibit, there's what appears to be a composite drawing, and then below it, 2 photographs of Stephen Avery, and it appears that the composite drawing is marked with Exhibit 26. Do you see that?
That's correct.
Okay. I noticed on another document that you brought today that there's a reference to the photographs that appear below the composite drawing as being Exhibit 22 in the original criminal proceedings.
Correct.
And yet there's no exhibit sticker on the photograph comparable to the one that's on the composite drawing. Is there a reason for that?
It may be on the back. I do not know.
All right. The photograph that appears on the bottom, is that a booking photograph?
Well, we call a mugshot, yes.
Okay, and is that a blow up of the original mugshot, or is that the size of the original mugshot?
That's an enlargement.
All right. Who did that enlargement?
I do not know.
Okay. Was that enlargement Exhibit 22 at the original criminal trial?
I believe so.
Okay, so it was not a smaller actual mugshot. It was the blow up of the mugshot that was used at the original trial.
I know it was used in the trial. I do not know if the smaller one was used also.
All right. Who prepared this framing and composition with the composite drawing at the top and the two photos at the bottom?
Manitowoc Art and Supply.
Okay. Did they do that at your request?
That's correct.
When was that done relative to the completion of the trial?
13 years later.
In the interim period of time, did you have possession of both the composite drawing and the photograph?
No, sir.
Who did?
The court.
Okay, I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 155 and ask you if you would tell me what that is.
This is an order for releasing the exhibit issued by the court, Judge Hazelwood, releasing the photograph and the composite to me.
All right, and that's dated when?
14th day of October, 1998.
Okay. Are you able to discern, as you look at Exhibit 154, the date of the photograph that was taken of Stephen Avery that's at the bottom of the page, or bottom of the exhibit, rather?
Let's look at that. Excuse me.
Specifically, does it look like...
January 3rd, 1985.
Okay. So that would be a booking photograph that was taken when Stephen Avery was arrested in January of 1985 with respect to an endangerment charge involving a woman named Sandra Morris.
Object on foundation. Go ahead, sir, if you know.
If you know.
I wouldn't know.
Okay, I've forgotten the answer, so forgive me. Did you cause this to be framed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, why did you do that?
It was my first drawing, my first composite. It was the only one I ever did that was used in a court case, and I thought it would make an interesting display in my office.
In the course of this, you did display this in your office?
Yes, sir.
And for what period of time did you display it in your office?
I think it went up early half of 1999 until I retired in 2003.
And after you retired in 2003, did you display it in your home?
It was not hung on the wall. On a couple of occasions, it was sitting out, and then it was put away.
In the course of time between when you first displayed it in your office and down to today, have there been occasions when you have told people who were viewing it that you were proud of the between of Stephen Avery and the composite drawing?
I don't know if the word proud would be appropriate. I found it interesting that they were very close, yes.
Okay. You now know, of course, that the person who was described to you by Penny Berenson as being her assailant is not the man who is in the photograph on the bottom of Exhibit 154.
No, I don't.
You assert that Stephen Avery is the person who attacked her?
I do not know.
Well,
So I do not know that he is not the person. You asked me if I knew. No, I don't. I don't know.
You don't know that DNA has exonerated Mr. Avery and inculpated Mr. Allen?
I have heard that it has. I do not know. I have not seen any reports. I have not seen where the evidence came from. I don't know. I do not know is what I'm saying
Okay.
as a personal knowledge.
Let's just hold our horses here just 1 second. Are you kidding me? Seriously.
Oh man.
I think this is one of the clips that we, part of a clip that we saw in Making a Murderer.
Yeah, I think so.
That's crazy.
Peterson said too that he had reason to have doubt or something like I would have doubt or something like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I do
Oh,
not
man.
know. Well, okay. And I think this is where we're going to lead off into here later about, DNA evidence can be invented or whatever he says. I can't remember the exact
Right.
quote.
Yep. Which was shocking to me when he said that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Hey, I see Susan in the chat. What's up, Susan? Hope
Yeah,
you're
there
doing
she
okay.
is. Hi, Susan.
Yeah. Well, she's probably either at work or probably just got home, one of the two. Anyway, let's not hold up here. Line 12.
Okay, this has been marked as Exhibit 156. You also brought that today in response to the subpoena.
Yes, sir.
What is that?
This is a mugshot from the City of Manitowoc Police Department, number 7652.
How did you come into possession of that?
I requested a copy from the City of Manitowoc.
When did you do that?
June of this year.
Why did you do that?
I was told that it was there.
By whom were you told that?
I believe by Sheriff Peterson.
What did Sheriff Peterson tell you was there?
A photo of Gregory Allen with a beard.
And for what reason was that important enough to you for you to request it?
Because of the release of Avery and the statement this was the actual individual, I wanted to see how he compared with the sketch.
He's just all about the sketch. How good did I do on the sketch? I wonder why he's so concerned about that sketch.
Well, he's proud of it. It's like a child or something. I don't know.
Yeah. He does sound like he's trying to just use his horn. Whatever. Okay, Mr. Kusche. Oh, wait. Could we have the sketch and the photograph of Avery brought back in camera range? Mr. Kusche, would you hold up the mugshot of Gregory Allen?
Complies.
And I take it that after you obtained Exhibit 156, you did make the comparison that you were curious about
Yes, sir.
between Gregory Allen and the composite?
Yes, sir.
And what's your judgment about that?
Bascom, I'm going to object to the form of the question.
I suck at this. And I'll object as well. God.
You can answer. How does it compare, especially as compared with the comparison you've already made between Stephen Avery and the drawing?
Same objection.
In your mind.
Same objection.
And I join.
You can answer.
Well, I have been instructed not to answer if there's an objection all my career, so I have to.
Oh,
No, I'm making an objection for the record so that
Oh,
at the time of trial, the judge can make
okay.
a ruling as to whether or not it's an appropriate question for you to answer. Unless your lawyer tells you not to, go ahead, if you can, answer the question.
Oh, okay. You're talking to an old cop who is.
I understand.
I was trained not to talk. An objection.
You're not that old. You're talking to an old lawyer, too.
okay, guys, your room.
Yeah, really.
I found significant differences between Gregory Allen and my sketch.
Okay, and how about as between Gregory Allen and your sketch and Stephen Avery in your sketch? How do they compare relatively in your mind?
Same objection. Well, it's Mr. Pollen.
Oh, his screen has frozen. Go ahead and
Uh-oh.
answer it, Chuck.
Mr. Pollen, that's fine, yeah. Mr. Pollen, I object to the form too.
You may answer.
And I join.
Bascom, go ahead if you understand.
Okay, I found that Stephen Avery was closer in appearance to my sketch from a composite sketch view. You have to understand, a composite is not a portrait, and the impact of the total sketch is closer to Avery than to Gregory Allen.
Any other differences that you noted with respect to Gregory Allen in comparison of Exhibit 156 and your composite drawing in 154?
What do you mean by?
Any other differences? You said you had noticed differences between Gregory Allen and your composite sketch.
Are you asking specifically what I see here is different?
What you think is different between the composite and the Gregory Allen mugshot?
The receding hairline, the hair, the beard. You have to understand this. I was told this photo.
When you say this, I'm going to ask you if you would, just for the sake of the record, to put the mugshot that you're talking about in front of the camera while you're talking.
Okay. I was told that this was the closest one we had in time to the sketch, but this was a year later, and there are differences in hair that could occur within 1 year. So whether he looked more like this at the time, I don't know. I'm going by this picture.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. We can take it down now. Mr. Kusche, in addition to exhibits 154, 155, and 156, have you brought any other documents with you responsive to the subpoena, exhibit 153?
No, sir.
At any time in the past, between today and January 1st of 1985, have you had in your possession, as distinct from the official possession of the department, any of the documents called for in Exhibit 153?
Yes.
Which ones have you had which ones have you at some time had?
I've had reports. I had a photo of Penny Berenson, newspaper clippings, I believe petitions from for evidence, copies thereof rather, not the originals. All the things I would have would be copies.
Anything else you recall that you had?
I think that would be about it.
Those things that you, God bless you, Rose. Those things that you just enumerated, did you have them at your home after you retired?
No.
Did you have them at your office while you were working for the department?
Yes.
And when you retired, did you turn over whatever you had to the department?
I left several files full of cases, my files, my personal files.
All right. Were there any of your personal files that you took with you when you went into retirement?
Cases?
Anything of any kind?
Oh, I took a lot of papers with me.
Okay. Anything else?
Bascom, can I just have some clarification, Walter? Are you talking about relative to this case or anything?
I'll get to that.
I took equipment that I used, things on my desk, things on my wall, plants. I pretty much cleared my office out except uniforms I took. Firearms, except for old cases. I think I took pretty much everything out of there.
Okay. Amongst the things that you took, including what you characterized as lots of papers, were there any of the things that are called for in Exhibit 153?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so your best recollection is that anything that you had pertaining to Stephen Avery, Gregory Allen, the sexual assault of Penny Berenson, stayed with what you left behind when you left the department.
Right. They would have been working files. Right.
Okay, so the only thing that you retained after that are the exhibits that we've already marked today.
That's correct.
When you refer to working files, would you tell me what you mean by that?
It would be a file in which I kept correspondence to me, memos, my notes, copies of my reports, things of that nature.
All right. Do you recall whether, when you left the department, you had any working file involving the Penny Berenson sexual assault and the Stephen Avery prosecution?
None of the prosecution itself, no.
What did you have?
I had a post-conviction investigation file involving some interviews I conducted.
These were interviews you conducted around 1995 and 1996 when there were post-conviction proceedings going on?
That's correct.
And these were interviews of other officers in the department?
That's correct.
And were you directed to do those investigatory interviews by anybody?
Yes, sir.
By whom?
By the then District Attorney, Jim Fitzgerald.
Other than that file, did you have any other working files or other files for that matter concerning the sexual assault of Penny Berenson, Stephen Avery, and or Gregory Allen?
I don't believe so.
Pause here for just a second. Pause here, line 15. It's interesting that the district attorney told him to do these interviews, and this is the interviews that, again, are linked in the description. Why would he be telling him to do anything? He's a district attorney. That should have came from, I don't know, I guess really the undersheriff or Kasurik. To me.
I don't know.
I mean, I know some, and I don't know who all in the country, our country, once a case is presented to the district attorney, they have their own investigators that run with it, that are directly working for the district attorney. But as far as I know, that's not how it works in Wisconsin. But anyway, I'm kind of picking at I'm probably just picking to pick, but to me this seems a little odd that this order would come from Jim Fitzgerald, the then district attorney. Why would he do that?
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it.
Well, I mean, this running through this phone call, again, this goes back to me. It goes back to the phone call that Colborn took. That's just me. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying I just see a connection or a potential connection between that phone call and whatever was done with that phone call at the time. And Fitzgerald heard about it and is like, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Well,
I like that. This is the first law enforcement in these cases I remember that admits to having kept his notes. It usually notes. No notes.
No notes.
Yeah, I know, we're kidding.
Well, we just heard Colborn say, "Yep, I keep everything in my head."
Yep.
Right. Not a lot in there.
To remember,
Andy.
Sheboygan or Brown County.
I don't mean to be an ass, Andy, but man, you needed a notepad, if anybody, and a PDA or something to talk into, a dictaphone, whatever.
Yeah. For real.
Anyway.
Jay also wants to know what page we're on because he had to reload the file.
This is PDF page 21.
All right, thanks for that.
Yep. Well, line 15 is where we're at. You got, ladies, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, do you know what became of your post-conviction investigation file?
No,
Earlier in your testimony, you said that at one time you have materials, including reports, a photograph of Penny Beardson, news clips, petitions for evidence. Do you remember that?
yes.
Where did you have that?
The news clips and petition for evidence would have been in my work post-conviction working file. Excuse me. The photograph was one that never went to court, but that Penny Beardson wanted, and we just never connected in getting it to her, so it was in my office. I think it was in a storage room.
That's weird. All right, and how about the reports that you talked about?
That would have been the post-conviction reports.
Okay, did you?
Unless you mean other than Beardson case or Avery case, I had other reports.
No.
Okay, okay.
No, I'm talking, well, I'm including Gregory Allen.
I had no knowledge of Gregory Allen.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised Jim didn't have to sneeze because I'm allergic to bullshit too.
Yeah. That's funny.
Wow.
So selective.
I had no knowledge of Gregory Allen. Are you kidding me? Kushe's been there forever, and he has no knowledge of Gregory Allen. Seriously, I do not believe him. I don't. I'm sorry. Anyway,
so it
continue on.
Logical.
No, not at all.
Gosh. 917. Okay, did you turn over the materials that you described to us to anybody when you retired?
They were left in my office.
And do you know who was responsible for what was left in your office?
Detective Lieutenant Jim Link took over.
Okay. When you and I talked on the phone, you said that it would be necessary for you to reschedule a rehabilitation session that you had.
Yes.
Set for this morning. Do you remember that?
Yes.
What kind of rehabilitation is that?
It's in the pool at the Y. I wear a brace for leg problems.
Okay. Are you... I love Kelly so much.
God. Are you medicated?
Okay. Are you presently medicated at all? I mean, here today? Because I think that answer you gave was bullshit.
Yes, I have taken medications.
Okay, would you tell me what those medications are? I mean, you don't have to give me the long name. What are they?
I have a lot, so, I have a list.
Okay. All right.
Is this really important? I don't know, because sometimes personal...
You'll see when I ask the follow-up question.
Okay.
Matter of fact, let's go off the record. No, don't go off the record. I want to hear this.
Off the record for 1 minute. Back on the record.
Mr. Kusche.
Okay.
Oh, whoops. Go ahead.
Mr. Kusche, when we've been off the record, you've had the opportunity to examine your medication schedule. I want to ask you just one question. In your understanding of yourself as you have been medicated, is there any impairment of your memory function here today?
Not to my knowledge.
I'm sorry, this is funny though. Okay, I believe you told me earlier that you retired in 2003 from the Sheriff's Department.
That's correct.
Do you remember when in 2003?
May 10th was my last working day.
Someone's at the entryway doorbell.
What?
Sorry, that's like Google thing. They're delivering pizza. Pizza delivery.
That was
My
weird.
bad. It gives an alert.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fine. It was weird in my ear.
Yeah.
It sounded like it was like right here next to me because I have my headphones on. I was
Nice.
looking around my room. Okay. Okay, how long had you been in law enforcement prior to your retirement date? Roughly.
I started as a young military policeman in Saigon in 1965.
Okay. And when did you start with Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department?
February 12th, 1979.
Before that, had you been working in law enforcement elsewhere?
Yes.
Where?
When I got out of the military, I went to work for the Kenosha Police Department. Then I went to the State Attorney General's Office Division of Criminal Investigation. I went back to school, and then I went to the Columbia County District Attorney's Office as a paralegal criminal investigator. Then I went as an investigation supervisor for the Southeastern District of the state for consumer protection. And then I went to Manitowoc.
Wow, this guy's got.
Wow.
He's
but he can't remember.
he's actually got more than that because during his time with Manitowoc, and they'll probably get to it, they sent him to Quantico for I can't remember, but he went to Quantico and studied with the FBI as well. So he's been with the DCI, so basically everyone except for the state police. He may even went there. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, well, here's. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
if anyone knows if they can create DNA, then it would be him, right?
Yeah.
This guy, despite the bullshit that we've already heard, this guy, in my opinion, was the smartest cop on the force, period. And he had clearly, I mean, you can just tell listening to him, his answers. He's very experienced at this. He's very guarded, instructed not to talk. When there's an objection, he's very capable, in my opinion. Very capable.
I just Googled him and he did art class in the evenings as well.
There you go.
Damn.
Yeah, he continued his education. There's no doubt. This guy was no dummy at all.
Was he ever married? Just out of curiosity.
Seems like I heard he was.
I think he was. Yeah, I agree with Cherie. I think he was.
All right. I'm just saying that's a lot of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
To be away from a wife and or kids, But
I can't remember if he's got children. Seemed like he had a daughter, but I could be thinking of someone else. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that he was married.
Okay. Just curious.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, line 10.
Yep.
All right. Okay, I'm going to take them one by one. About how long were you with Kenosha PD?
A little over 2 years.
Okay, and with the State Division of Criminal Investigation?
About the same time.
Did you specialize in any kinds of investigations when you were with the state?
Narcotics.
Okay. You then remarked that you went back to school.
Yes.
What schooling was that?
Gateway Technical Institute in Kenosha.
And what did you obtain a degree there?
There I obtained the associate degree.
Okay. And for how long did that last?
I'm trying to think, maybe a year or so, a year and a half. Then I went to Columbia County, and that was for 3 years. I lived there in, I believe, 77.
Did you specialize in any particular kinds of investigations when you were with Columbia County?
Basically, post-case investigations, things that needed additional investigation after the local police departments presented their case to the district attorney.
Okay.
Or something of very severe nature.
When you say of a very severe nature?
Yeah, if it was something that they needed assistance on, I would assist them.
Okay. And then you mentioned working with the Southeastern District of the state. Would you tell us what that is?
That was with the Department of Agriculture, Trade and Commerce, or Consumer Protection. I was an investigation supervisor out of the Milwaukee office for consumer protection investigations.
Okay. About how many people did you supervise?
5.
And how long were you in that position?
About a year.
Would you tell me your educational history, please?
Well, I have the associate's degree. Then I received a bachelor's degree through Mount Scenario College, and I've had many hours of specialized training, many hours.
Wow, jeez.
Told you.
Any of your that's a lot, man. An associate's and a bachelor's.
Yep.
Oh, and besides all the work and training, that's I guess good for him. And any of your specialized training involve training with respect to exculpatory evidence?
Mm, mm.
Bascom, I'm going to object to the form of the question.
You can answer.
I really don't understand how you mean it. I mean,
In the course of your education, were you trained with respect to what exculpatory evidence is and what your obligations are as a police officer
oh, of course.
with respect to it?
Yes.
Where were you trained in that regard?
Well, I mean, it's generalized training. It's not, I can't tell you exactly what class it was in.
When you say it's generalized training, do you mean it's well known
Yes,
within professional law enforcement?
of course.
Okay.
I need him to slow down. Let him get the question out first.
Yes, sir.
Pause for a moment and then answer so we have a clear record, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Paula. Jeez. Kicking my ass. I hate when they're doing that, cutting off back and forth. It makes me crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. We've had some testimony in this case about the positions you held in the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. So I would like it if you would to tell us over the course of your history from 1979 to 2003, what positions you held in the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department.
I started as chief deputy,
Who hired you for that job?
the county.
Any particular chief involved in that or sheriff?
Well, when I started the process, it was Sheriff George Waynish. Then when the process was completed, it was Tom Kasurik.
Okay, so you were chief deputy for a period of time?
That's correct.
From when to when?
In function from 79 to 1985.
And are you distinguishing between in function and something else?
With title, yes. I held the title for another year.
Until 1986?
Correct.
And after 1986, what position did you hold?
I was lieutenant on the patrol division.
And between 1986, when you became lieutenant in the patrol division, and May of 2003, when you retired, did you hold any other positions?
Yes, sir.
And what were those?
I was chief investigator.
When did that position occur?
1989, I believe.
So when you retired as chief investigator.
That's correct.
First of all, what caused you to retain the title but not the function of chief deputy between 1985 and 1986?
Sheriff's order.
And what was the reason for that order?
I do not know.
Okay.
Wow.
At the same time that you retained the title of chief deputy but not the function, did anyone else assume the function of chief deputy?
Yes.
And who was that?
Vern Clement.
And what title did he have the title of deputy?
Under sheriff.
And who caused that to occur?
I presume the sheriff.
Are you saying you don't know?
I was not party to how it was done. No.
Did you have knowledge of why it was done?
Why it was done?
Yeah.
Because the sheriff wanted it.
Arising out of what circumstances?
I do not know.
Okay. What caused you to lose the title of Chief Deputy in 1986 and move into the position of Lieutenant in the Patrol Division?
The
Object to the
Oh,
form of the
oh.
question. Phrase lose the title, but go ahead, sir.
You can answer.
The position was eliminated by action of the county board.
And do you know what caused that to occur?
I was not party to any of that, so I do not know.
Your testimony, regardless of whether or not you're a party, is you have no knowledge of,
I have no knowledge of why.
okay,
No knowledge, no.
what you have some understanding or belief.
It's nothing I could testify to. It's just that speculation in my own mind.
What's your speculation?
Object to the form.
Mr. Glenn, excuse me, let's go off the record for a second.
Off the record for 2 minutes, back on the record.
By Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kusche, earlier today you told us that you had previously testified in a deposition. I want to remind you that you can testify to literally anything in a deposition. There are no rules of hearsay or limitations. The judge may make rulings on evidentiary issues if there are any objections by other counsel, but it's not as if you're in a criminal court.
Right.
Being confined to the rules of evidence, okay? Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So tell me what your speculation is.
Object to the form calls for speculation.
Dumbass.
And I'll,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
and I'll join.
You have to understand the chief deputy is the sheriff's number 2 man. It's the person who does the day-to-day work for the sheriff. For some reason, the sheriff, I believe, lost confidence in me and no longer seemed to trust me. And I believe for this reason, whatever the cause of that may be, which I do not know to this day, he decided he wanted somebody else in there.
We had Vern Clement testify that he became the undersheriff in May of 1985. Does that sound about right to you in terms of when your functioning as the chief deputy changed?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just a couple of months before this whole Penny Beardson sexual assault and the Stephen Avery trial, right?
Yes.
Did you ever have a conversation with Tom Kusarek about why he lost confidence in you?
I asked him, why did you do this? And he said, because I lacked tact.
And did you respond to that?
Yes, I said, Tom, tact on your department was the ability to make to smile at somebody's face while you stab them in the back, which was a tactless thing to say.
Well,
tactless, but it was honest.
Yep.
I mean, if that's tacky, then I'm a tacky bitch then. Because I'll call somebody out. Oh, well. Excuse me. And what did he say to that?
I don't think he responded.
Okay. There's at least 2 statements that were taken by agents of the Department of Justice in this case, in which there was references made to the department being in turmoil as a result of the change that was made involving you and the creation of the undersheriff position. Do you have any recollection of any turmoil occurring in the department around these changes?
I don't think those changes caused turmoil.
Okay, so your answer is no. You don't.
There was turmoil in the department, but basically it was because in 1979, the traffic department ceased to exist and it became a sheriff's department. And there were a lot of adjustments being made. It was a dynamic period. I don't think my change had a lot of impact on it.
Okay, you have not retained counsel personally today.
No, sir.
You're not represented by any lawyer here today, is that right?
I'm told I'm essentially represented by the gentleman representing the county.
Okay, but you haven't retained any counsel personally.
No, sir.
All right. And you're no longer employed by the county.
That's correct.
You're fully retired.
That's correct.
Does your pension come from the state system or from the county or a combination?
From the state system.
Okay. Have you met with any of the lawyers here today in anticipation of your testimony?
No.
Have you reviewed any documents with any lawyer in anticipation of your testimony?
Yes.
With what lawyer?
Amy Doyle.
Did you meet personally with Miss Doyle?
Yes.
When did you meet with Miss Doyle?
Monday.
So that would be 2 days ago.
That's correct.
And where did you meet with her?
Sheriff's Department.
And for how long did you meet with her?
2 hours, maybe.
Did you review documents with her?
Yes.
Did you receive or examine any reports of testimony?
Yes.
What testimony did you review?
My testimony at the trial.
Any other testimony?
Other testimony? I don't believe so.
Did you examine anybody else's, the transcript of anybody else's testimony, either at the trial or in depositions?
No.
Did you receive any reports about anybody else's testimony from Ms. Doyle?
Paul, I'm sorry, that's Jay.
I'm going to object this time and instruct the witness not to answer about conversations that he's had with Miss Doyle, because I believe that protected by the attorney's client privilege, and there's no need for him to answer that.
Is it though?
Well, I don't think so, because he's not.
He's not represented by.
No, he's retired. He's not in the sheriff's department.
Yeah, and he doesn't. Yeah, and he does. Okay, well, anyway.
Maybe they're worried about what he might say, on behalf,
Yeah.
because on behalf of the county. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's just my guess.
I think you're right, Cherie.
Yeah, most likely.
Kelly, oh my God,
Okay,
Kelly.
we're okay. We're going to go off the record. I'm calling the judge. He agrees with us.
Bascom, okay. Off the record from 10:17. They're off the record for 13 minutes. Back on the record.
Mr. Kusche, you were present while we had a dialogue with the court. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you, all right. So you understand you have to answer the questions about what happened when you were with Miss Doyle.
Wow, interesting.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, would you tell me your best recollection of what documents you reviewed with her?
I reviewed my testimony in the original trial. I reviewed transcripts of my interviews with the detectives in 95, 96, around in that area, a letter from Doug Jones, a report from the Department of Justice.
Of an interview of you?
That's correct. Document-wise, I think that's it.
All right. Generally speaking, what areas of events or testimony in the Stephen Avery, Penny Berenson, Greg Allen matter did you review with Miss Doyle? Just by topic, what did you talk about with her concerning the various topics relating to the case?
My recollection of what I did on the case, my procedure for doing the composite, what I knew of statements by Leo Jadowski, Arland Avery, about the presence of a photograph. Let's see, boy. A lot of material that we've gone over today so far. Basically what I was doing, what I did, what I remember people saying what sequence of events, how they occurred.
Particularly at the hospital and that evening?
That's correct.
All right. Anything else you recall of the topics you discussed with Miss Doyle?
Other than going over those reports that I mentioned, that was pretty much it.
So in view of your testimony, in view of your testimony you've given today about the documents that you retained after you left the sheriff's department, the documents that you've described must have been documents that Ms. Doyle produced for you to review.
That's correct.
They were not things that brought,
No,
not things that you brought with you to the conference with her.
no,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
All right. Did you, by any chance, bring exhibits 154, 155, and 156 with you to the conference with Ms. Doyle?
Yes,
Okay. Did you discuss with Ms. Doyle the conversation that you had with me to schedule your testimony?
just that you wanted me to bring the picture, and she says bring it along, that she wanted to see it.
Okay. And did you and she discuss the comparison of exhibit 156 with the composite drawing and Stephen Avery, as we did earlier here today?
Yes,
All right. And did Miss Doyle show you any other photographs or mugshots of either Greg Allen or Stephen Avery that she had?
no,
Okay. Did Miss Doyle talk with you at all about whether or not you had recollections of these various events
yes,
and did she talk with you about start over. And did she talk with you about refreshing recollection?
specifically those words?
Or words or comparable concepts?
I'm going to object to the form.
What we discussed was there were things in my statement that I do not remember anymore.
All right. Did she tell you anything about telling me that you didn't recall things?
She said if you do not remember, say you don't remember.
Okay. Did she tell you anything about the techniques that have been used either by me or Mr. Glenn in conducting depositions in this case and how to respond to them?
She said you would press on points and ask questions, perhaps repeatedly.
And anything further she said?
Just tell them what you know.
Okay. Did she talk with you at all about your previous experience testifying in depositions or at trial?
No,
Did she talk with you at all about the political relationships in the department between you and Tom Kusarik that caused this realignment of positions?
I think I got on it. I don't know if she asked me about it.
You told her about it?
I believe so, yes.
What did you tell her?
I told her that at the time the sheriff and I were not on the best of terms.
Okay. Did you tell her that that fact had any bearing upon the way in which Stephen Avery investigation was conducted?
No,
Did you tell her anything about any opinions you expressed to the sheriff about how the investigation was conducted?
no,
Did you tell her anything about things that you knew about within the department involving the relationships amongst the detectives and the way in which the sheriff conducted the investigation?
only to the fact that the sheriff on occasion came to major crimes and took charge.
And that he did so in this instance?
I know he was there. I was not really part of the investigation other than drawing the picture. I'm assuming he took charge. I know he took charge in other cases.
Are you saying that you did not have any discussion with Miss Doyle about whether or not Sheriff Kusarik was in charge of this investigation?
No,
Okay. No, meaning no, you didn't have such a discussion with.
no, I didn't have such a discussion.
Okay. Did you, in your conversation with Miss Doyle about what you call the sequence of events at the hospital that evening, did she tell you anything about what other witnesses had said they remembered about what other witnesses had said they remembered about the sequence of events at the hospital that evening?
I believe on a couple of cases it did come up, yes.
Okay. Did she tell you, for example, about what Al Kalenzik had said that he remembered about what happened at the hospital?
I don't believe so.
Did she tell you anything about what Judy Dvorak said about what she remembered was the sequence at the hospital?
I don't believe so.
With whom did you discuss, strike that, about what people did you talk with Miss Doyle concerning what happened at the hospital?
Bill Beck.
Anyone else?
That's the only one I can recall.
Okay. What did she tell you Bill Beck had said?
That he called for me to come there, that I think he believed that. I think it was him or someone else who said that the sheriff arrived before I did, and I didn't recall that.
Okay. Did she make any comparison between what your statement to the Department of Justice agents said about the sequence of events at the hospital as compared to what other people had said was the sequence at the hospital?
I think there was an error in one of the Department of Justice statements, which I pointed out, but I don't think we discussed it.
When you say one of the Department of Justice's statements, were there more than one?
I'm talking in paragraph. In a particular paragraph, I think there was something that I considered to be an error.
In respect to their interview of you?
That's correct.
All right. What was the error, as you recall it, that you pointed out to her?
I'd have to see the report in order to remember.
Okay. Did she compare, for example, what Bill Beck said about contacting you and having you come to the hospital with what you told the Department of Justice agents about how you came to the hospital?
No.
Okay. Did she tell you anything about what Tom Kusche either had made statements about or testified about concerning what happened at the hospital?
No.
Is there anything else you can remember in the course of this 2-hour meeting that you and Miss Doyle talked about?
Whether I saw any photographs, a pile of photographs, whether I knew who brought the photographs, that was a good portion of the conversation.
Did she talk with you at all about who the jailers were that night?
She asked me if I knew who they were.
Okay. Did she talk with you at all about how the photographs got from the jail to the hospital?
Exactly what I just said, yes.
Okay. Did she talk with you at all about any other members of the department with whom you've had conversations about this case?
Yes.
And what did you tell her about that?
Larry Conrad, Sheriff Kusche, Al Kalanzik, obviously Andy Colborn. I don't really have a great memory of that conversation.
Bascom, can I have some clarification, Walter? When you say conversations about this case, are we talking about the Stephen Avery versus Manitowoc County case or the State versus Stephen Avery case?
Both.
At the same time?
Well, excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, hold on a second.
Get you a big gulp of water.
Gosh, that was frustrating. Well, in respect to the pending question,
Well, I'm asking.
I want to go back, and I don't want to be interrupted here. You can make an objection, whatever you want, but
Object to the form of the question as vague as to time.
okay. I'd like to go back and hear the question and answer.
Certainly. And they read it back.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Kelly, tell me what you told Miss Doyle about conversations you've had with Larry Conrad about this case.
Just that we have discussed it, specifically each detail.
Everything you remember that you and Miss Doyle talked about respecting your conversations with Larry Conrad concerning this case. And when I say this case,
He told me that.
Wait.
when I say this case, I'm referring to both this civil suit and the underlying criminal action and subsequent proceedings in the Stephen Avery matter.
Okay, now go ahead.
I was told you were very interested in the fact that I had the sketch hanging on my wall in my office. That seems to be a point of interest.
I'll try it again.
Kelly.
All I'm asking you at this moment is, what did you tell Miss Doyle about conversations you had had with Larry Conrad about this case?
I think that was pretty much it, that the interest was on the sketch.
All right. How many conversations with Larry Conrad have you had about this case?
Oh, geez. I see him quite often, email with him, talk with him. Not always. It's not always about this case, but sometimes it comes up. You know, have you heard anything? Things of this nature. It seems anytime any officers, old detectives, or what have you get together, sometimes it comes up somehow.
Oh, I bet there's lots of reasons it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, have you talked with Larry Conrad since he was deposed in this case?
Yes,
How many times?
twice.
And on those occasions, did you talk about what he had to say about this case and what his deposition was like?
On one occasion.
Okay. And on the other one, did you not talk about this case at all with him?
No.
So you've had one conversation after Larry Conrad's deposition in which you talked about this case.
Correct.
What did he tell you, and what did you say to him?
What I just said, that you seem to be interested in the fact that I had the picture hanging on the wall and what he knew about me having a photograph to draw the picture from.
Okay. Anything else that you talked with him about?
Not about this case, no.
Did I hear you say just a moment ago that you've had email exchanges with yourself and other detectives and former members of the department, some of which have involved this case?
No, I said I've had contact with him by email. I didn't say it had to do with this case.
Have you had email exchanges with any other person in the world about this case?
No.
And then the get-togethers that you're talking about, what are those?
Breakfasts.
And what other persons who have been involved in some way in this case have you met with at breakfast and sometimes talked about this case?
Don Belts.
Anyone else?
At breakfast, that would probably he and Larry Conrad, maybe Fred Nicholson. I don't know if we discussed this case with Fred.
Okay.
We may have.
Don Belts tell you anything about his testimony in this case?
I don't believe so.
Tell you anything about information brought to him by Leroy Belkey about another suspect in this case?
He was upset with that.
Okay.
That was said.
Okay. What did any further conversations you've had with Larry Conrad about this case, apart from the one you've told us about after he testified?
Oh, before. I mean, again, like what's happening, you know? What's the story? What's going on? The question of where the hair came from, nobody seems to know.
Oh my God.
Where what hair came from?
The hair the DNA came from. No one seems to know where that came from.
Oh, man.
It came from the kid.
Oh, who's discussed where the hair came from for the DNA?
I did.
Okay, with whom?
Sheriff Kusche, Larry Conrad, Don Belts.
How many times with Kusche?
A couple times, maybe.
And how many times with Conrad?
Perhaps a couple.
And with Belts?
Maybe once.
Did anyone or more of you in the course of those conversations doubt the validity of the DNA examination?
We don't know where it came from.
So,
We're detectives. We want to know where the evidence came from. Just because something exists doesn't mean it's probative. I want to know where it came from.
okay. Was there any speculation about where it might have come from?
Bascom, object to the form calls for speculation. Let's pause here a second. This is really interesting
Let's do.
because, well, to me, he's completely discounting the kit that was done at the hospital. They called her down there, right? And that's what I understood. And that's where the hair came from because they hadn't been tested before.
Yep, that's what I recall.
I don't understand why this is such a issue for him.
I don't know.
Because he's already made at least one comment earlier, in the testimony about, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was basically focused around the DNA. I don't know where he came from. Does he not understand how a SANE kit works? That's what it seems like, or he doesn't believe it, one of the two.
This is just my opinion. I think he is questioning. I think he's just not believing it.
Well, that's sure the way it seems.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Interesting. But I mean, we've known that he's had this question, whether it's valid or not, in his real mind, about the DNA. We haven't had all the testimony around that particular question necessarily that we're going to now, but hey, T1, it's good to see you. And TJ, great to see you as well.
Absolutely. I was going to say that too. And T1's got, good comment here. I'm still trying to figure out how S.A.'s civil lawyer found out about the report made and placed in the sheriff's safe. It couldn't have been on file if it was locked away, correct? Somebody made that statement. I can't remember if it was Link or somebody made that statement to them. I
think it was Link that added that, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was. I think it was too, that he said that Kasorik had taken that and put it in the safe. I don't know. We've got the interviews. We could probably find it, T.
Yeah, that's what I feel like.
What I'm saying, interviews. I mean, I'm talking specifically about the interviews with Amy Doyle and Deb Strauss, That's Dr. Silkman's ex-girlfriend, by the way. During one of these interviews, that statement was made, and that's how they found out about it, because they had all of them, right? So.
Yeah.
My bad. Hit it.
Another question from T1 before we start back up. Were the nail scraping during Stephen Avery's previous appeal ever compared to Gregory Allen for double confirmation that Gregory Allen was the correct attacker in the Penny Berenson case? Well,
if there was a lab report about that, I've never seen it. I'm not saying it didn't happen to you.
Yeah.
But I don't remember seeing a lab report confirming that they compared the fingernail scrapings to the DNA that they found later with the hair. I don't know that.
I don't remember that, but that doesn't say very much either. So for me to not remember it. Yeah.
Yeah,
doesn't sound familiar to me though.
No, I'm going to say no, but I don't know that for positive. I mean, they had the DNA from the hair, and that directly pointed at Allen. So I don't know if they went back and said, hey, well, let's compare this to the fingernail scrapings. That's a great thought there. Actually, you should be a detective. Actually.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that you would definitely be better than some that we know about.
Well, and the fact that reason I'm not recalling it, I don't know. That just makes me think that there's not.
I don't remember seeing anything like that either. So.
Good question.
Okay, we're Yeah, it is a good question.
Line
So
23?
we're roughly 50 pages in. We'll go a bit longer because I'm trying to split this deposition, so we only have to do one more when we finish it up next time, right? So let's hit it for another spell. And again, comments, please. If there's anything, whoever, if there's comments or whatever, something to make your eyes bug out.
I just found the Kusche's obituary and emailed it to you, Jack, in case you are interested. It does say that he has a wife, or he had a wife. It looks like his children might be stepchildren. So.
Oh.
Yep, I got it. I see it there. Thank you very much. Yeah, I am interested in that.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
okay,
like,
continue on, ladies. I'm sorry.
Sorry, just really quick on that. Nan's Life 7 said Kusche died just prior to Stephen Avery's trial. Yeah,
that's right.
I think it was the morning of or the day before the trial
day
started.
Day before, I think.
Yeah. Okay, line 23. You can answer.
They said that someone put a blanket or a towel on her at the scene. It could have been a transfer from that. Don't know. I don't know where it came from.
Well, it couldn't have been transferred because according to the detectives in Oklahoma City, that's not a thing. So
that doesn't happen. That's not a thing.
Doesn't happen, and especially back in 1985. No way.
Right.
Sorry, I digress. Okay, line 3. Did any one or more of you, including Sheriff Kusarek, make any effort to find out by any means whatsoever where the hair came from?
Object to the form of the question.
You can answer.
I asked the county's attorneys when I was questioned at one time, and they basically refused to say anything. Says, who knows?
Gesturing, who knows? Oh my God.
Peace, man. Okay, when you tell me that you had a meeting with the county attorneys, who are you talking about?
Amy Doyle, another attorney. This was at the sheriff's department a while back, and they basically just asked me to go over what I was remembering, what I could say. It wasn't as detailed as what Amy and I did later.
So the other lawyer, in addition to Amy Doyle, who was with Amy Doyle on that occasion was somebody from the county?
I think it was somebody else with her firm, is the impression I got.
Okay, meaning it was not to your knowledge, it was not somebody from the corporation counsel's office.
It was not somebody from the court counsel.
And can you approximate in time when this interview occurred?
It was earlier this year sometime. I don't know. I would have to go through this date book page by page, and I might come up with it. I would just say the first part of the year.
First part of 2005?
Correct.
How did that meeting come about? Did she ask for it?
Yes.
What did she tell you about that?
They wanted to talk to me.
Okay.
I had called the court counsel's office because I was contacted by Court TV, and that was going to be in June. I remember that June or July because they were going to come up here and they wanted to interview me and photograph that sketch. Okay,
so you wanted some advice from the corporation counsel about that?
I said I would. I had no problem with it, but I would not do it without the county's approval.
That's interesting. I had forgotten about this.
What? Was he already retired though?
No, not.
Okay.
Well. No, he's talking about the early part of 2005. So yeah, he was retired. Yeah. So he was retired. That's interesting. I'd actually completely forgot about that, and maybe we'll find out if he actually did it or not. So
Yeah. Okay, and was that what led to the meeting with Miss Doyle?
I don't know.
All right.
It may have, and I think it happened after that, so it may be. I don't know.
I take it you're examining your date book.
That's what I'm doing.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay, take your time.
I hope I put it in here. I may not have put June 30th.
This is a meeting on June 30th of 2005 with you, Amy Doyle, and some other lawyer.
Yeah, I didn't put his name in here because I think she was the one who contacted me.
Okay, all right, but you're clear that the other lawyer was not somebody from the county corporation counsel's office?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All right. Did you bring exhibit 154 with you to this meeting?
No.
All right. And about how long did that meeting last?
Maybe an hour.
Okay. And did Miss Doyle bring documents with her?
They had documents, yes.
Okay. And the other lawyer?
That's correct.
And did they review those documents with you?
No.
What would I call it? What was the main subject matter that was discussed during that 1 hour period?
The evening or the 29th of July. What occurred, what I did, what I saw, what I heard, what I said.
Okay. And did Miss Doyle supply you with any further information?
No.
About what other people were saying about that same thing?
No.
Man, slow your roll, Kusche. Okay, you were interviewed by Court TV?
No.
Do you have any knowledge about whether anybody else was witnessed or was interviewed by Court TV in connection with this case?
No.
You know, you gave us some names earlier of people with whom you've discussed the case, and you listed Don Beltz, Larry Conrad, and Fred Nicholson. Did you talk with Fred Nicholson after his deposition?
No.
All right. Do you remember what you've discussed with Fred Nicholson about the case?
I think he said all he did was the time trip to check on the purchase at Shopco.
Okay. In any of these conversations involving Don Beltz, Larry Conrad, and Fred Nicholson, were there any discussions about how well or not so well? Oh, sorry. Were there any discussions about how well or not so well the sheriff conducted this investigation?
I don't think that was broached.
Were there any discussions about how the investigation was conducted?
No, I believe the question of had anybody run into the name Greg Allen, had anybody heard about that before?
And with whom did you discuss that?
Oh, with these same people.
Okay, and what was that discussion?
I think Larry Conrad said he had some recollection of him, but not with this case.
Did Larry Conrad say anything about conversations he had with Tom Bergner about Greg Allen?
No.
Did Larry Conrad say anything about tracking down information concerning Greg Allen in connection with a 1983 case against Greg Allen for an assault on a woman on a beach in Manitowoc?
I think he said he had a contact with him, but it wasn't this case.
Right, it was a prior case.
Yes, he didn't go into detail.
Okay. He did not talk with you about providing the information from that case to Tom Bergner?
No.
Did all of you talk about Tom Bergner at all?
I think it came up because in the statement in the paper, it said that he had given the sheriff information on Greg Allen.
Right.
And nobody was aware of it.
And what did you all think of that as you talked it over?
Object to the form.
Right. I'll withdraw the question. What did you say to each other about this information that came up concerning Tom Bergner providing information to Sheriff Kusche about Greg Allen?
I don't think anybody had anything to say because we didn't know. We didn't know, did it occur? What was said? We didn't know. We hadn't heard anything about it other than what was in the paper.
Well, you gave some testimony earlier today about how everybody understands what the exculpatory evidence rule is, right?
Sure.
Any discussion amongst you about how serious it would be if the Greg Allen information had in fact been provided by Bergner or to Kusche?
No.
Hold on a minute.
How are you doing? Do you need a break or are you doing okay?
Shortly.
Shortly?
Shortly.
Okay.
Detect a fish syndrome.
Okay.
Shall we go off the record?
Yeah, let's go off the record. I don't want to be talking about his pissy face.
I've never heard that before.
I haven't either. Well, I have, but it's been a long time ago. Okay, off the record for 7 minutes and back on the record.
Okay. Excuse me. Mr. Kusche, I want to just return to a couple of loose ends here. On either occasion that you met with Amy Doyle, whether it was in June or the meeting that took place just a couple of days ago, did you have any discussion with her about the photographic array
Yes.
that was done for Mrs. Berenson that evening at the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. On both occasions, or just one occasion, did you discuss that with Miss Doyle?
I know Monday we did. I don't know if we touched on the subject in June. I think in June it was more about me talking.
All right. In respect to the conversation that you had with Miss Doyle about the photographic array, did you tell her that you were present for it?
When it was shown to Miss Berenson?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's get 154 up here again for a moment. Was the photograph that appears in 154 at the bottom of Steve Avery one of the photographs that was shown to Mrs. Berenson?
The smaller version?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, let me show you what's been marked as Exhibit 74 in this case. And on the lower left-hand side, it appears to me at least, and I'm asking you if it appears to you that that's a similar mugshot of Stephen Avery that is blown up in Exhibit 154.
Yes.
Okay, so that's Stephen Avery as he appeared in January of 1985, right?
Yes.
What's the picture to the right on Exhibit 74?
It's a picture of Avery dated May 20th, 1986.
Okay, and what's the picture at the top?
Picture
on Exhibit 74.
Picture of Steve Avery dated July 30th, 1985.
Okay, would you hold Exhibit 74 up next to 154? So as we look at that, Exhibit 74 in the lower right-hand corner facing us is Steve Avery in 1986. Is that right?
This one?
Yes.
That's correct.
And in the lower left on the photo, the mugshot on the lower left side is Stephen Avery in January of 1985, right?
Correct.
And the picture at the top is Stephen Avery on the night of the day Mrs. Berenson was assaulted. Is that right?
No.
7:30:85.
It would be the following day.
Gosh, did you guys just hear my eyes roll? So do you know whether that photo was taken when he was booked in the jail on the 20th and 30th of July?
I'd have no personal knowledge other than reading the date on the card.
Okay. But what's your understanding? Do you know what I mean when I say that? You don't have to have firsthand knowledge. As you look at these, knowing what you know as a police officer, that photo that you have your finger on right now in Exhibit 74 was taken the night that Mrs. Berenson was assaulted, whether it was before or after midnight.
It's dated the 30th, so it would be contemporaneous in some manner or form
Okay.
to that date.
And in the ordinary course, such a photo would be taken when Stephen Avery was brought into the jail. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Actually, let's get 154 up here again. When the photo array was done, the only mugshot of Stephen Avery that was available. Hold on a second. Pardon me. When the photo array was done, the only mugshot of Stephen Avery that was available was the one that's in Exhibit 154 and the smaller mugshot on the left-hand side of Exhibit 74, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you participate in setting up that photo array?
No.
Who set up the photo array?
I don't know.
But you saw it taking place.
I saw the photographs shown to Penny Berenson.
How many photos were shown to her?
I don't really remember.
By whom?
I believe the sheriff had them.
Were they displayed in a framing document, or were they displayed just laid out on a table somewhere?
In my recollection, they were laid out on the table.
By the sheriff?
That's correct.
Okay. Was anyone else in the room at that time?
I believe there was.
And who was that?
I don't recall.
One more person? Two more?
I don't recall. My attention was not on the people.
What was your attention on?
The photographs.
Okay. Earlier, you testified that amongst the people that you spoke with. Hang on a second. I'm struggling with dry. I need to get a sip real quick.
No, go ahead. We'll break for just a second. Get yourself a drink and rest your voice. We're not going to go too much longer. T1, I had to put this up. Lol, wow, comparing me to the Wisconsin detectives. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or an insult. No, you'd be better than them. That's what I'm
You'd
saying.
be much better. Yeah, it's definitely a compliment, T.
Yeah.
We would never insult you.
Never. No. Not going to happen.
Especially publicly. Ever. Never, ever.
No.
Okay. Okay, earlier you testified that amongst the people that you spoke with about the case on more than one occasion was Al Kalinzik. Do you recall that?
I spoke with him once.
Okay, when was that? Well, let me rephrase that. Was it after the information appeared in the public media?
Yes.
Stephen Avery had been exonerated?
Yes.
Okay. Where was the conversation?
At Walmart.
All right. Was anyone else present than the two of you?
My wife was somewhere around. I don't know if she was nearby.
Okay. Well, what did the two of you talk about?
We talked about the case.
What's your best recollection of what you said to each other?
I know he wasn't happy. Apparently he got suspended, and I had not been aware of that. And that he stated that he had apparently it was alleged that he refused to go to the hospital. He said he did not, but he was delayed in getting there. That was most of the conversation.
Was there any discussion on that occasion of the sequence of events at the hospital as he remembered them, and you remembered them?
I just said, I believe I said, I thought you were there later. I didn't know what time he got there.
Okay. Later than
me.
So you thought you got to the hospital before Al Kalinzik?
I thought I did. I didn't see him, so I didn't know.
All right. Was that something that you discussed with Miss Doyle when you met with her 2 days ago?
I may have. I don't recall offhand.
In the conversation that you've told us about that have occurred between you and other personnel of the sheriff's department, the detectives in the sheriff's department, on any occasion, was there any discussion amongst you about whether the sheriff proceeded or may have proceeded too rapidly to focus on Stephen Avery?
I don't know if it was the sheriff focusing too rapidly. I think he was identified in the initial stages of the investigation. It proceeded from there.
Was there any discussion amongst you about any focusing too rapidly on Stephen Avery? I'm talking about the conversations on any occasion between you and any one or more of the detectives.
I can't say specifically. It may have, as part of the newspaper article saying that was focused to the exclusion of other people. I don't think it was focused to the exclusion of other people.
What was the conversation that occurred amongst you and the detectives about that?
Again, I can't remember exactly who it was with, but whether it was, of course, was there any knowledge about Alan or nobody, and nobody was familiar with Alan, that other people were checked out or looked at, and that the victim identified him.
Well, was there any discussion about Judy Dvorak having said that the person sounded like Stephen Avery?
I recall someone at the hospital saying that. I don't know if it was her. I don't remember talking to her.
Okay, I'm asking you about conversations that you've told us about that occurred.
It may have occurred. I just have no specific recollection of that.
Well, how about any recollection? It doesn't matter whether your recollection is specific. I'm just asking.
Well, what I'm saying is things were discussed, and sometimes it's just a matter of what's happening now, what's said. Do you remember this or something of that nature? And I don't always recall what the topic was specifically.
Sure. Okay. And what I'm saying to you is that's fine. You're certainly free to give that testimony. But what I'm asking you is whether it's specific or not, whether your memory's perfect or not, do you recall talking with any one or more of the detectives on any occasion about whether or not the sheriff focused too rapidly on Stephen Avery and that caused problems in the case? Ms. Weber?
Ms.
Right.
Weber.
I'm going to object to the form. Also asked and answered.
I'll join in that, and I object to the form. But go ahead, sir, if you can.
You may answer.
Again, I state it may have come up as part of the article in the newspaper, and well, the response we would have is that I recall would be, well, we had a victim who said it was him.
And who's we?
Myself and whoever I was talking with. Again, I don't recall each incident of conversation.
In any discussion that you've had with anyone or more of the detectives, as you've told us you did about this case, was there any discussion amongst you about whether or not the sheriff was pressured by Tom Beardson to move on this case?
Not in conversation with any detective, no.
In any other way, did that subject come up?
Pressure from Tom Beardson?
Yeah,
Yes.
on the sheriff.
On the sheriff? I don't know if it was on the sheriff.
Pressure from Tom Beardson in any way? I believe you said yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I've had a conversation with a local attorney who was part of the initial stages, Ron Kaminsky. He was, I don't know, he was a special prosecutor or something at the time, and of the initial stages, just for bond. And he said that Tom Beardson was at his office early, wanting to get things done. That's all I can recall.
And this is something that you talked about with one or more of the detectives
No,
in the department.
no.
this is something you knew but did not discuss with anybody.
It was a comment from an attorney. I don't know if it's nothing a part of our investigation.
Again, what I'm asking you is whether, knowing what you knew from that conversation, you had any conversation with any of the detectives in the department about that.
No,
All right. And you're telling me that your recollection is that amongst yourselves, you and the detectives did not ever discuss Tom Beardson pressuring the sheriff in this case.
no,
Okay. You mentioned a bit earlier in your testimony in Officer Colborn and a document that you saw about that. Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you Exhibit 124 in this case, and you've seen that before, right?
I saw this Monday.
Had you seen it before Monday?
No,
This document reflects a conversation between you and Douglas Jones on September 18th, right?
that's correct.
That's shortly after it became public knowledge that Stephen Avery had been exculpated by the DNA evidence and that Gregory Allen had been inculpated, right?
That's correct.
Was the call that is reflected in this document initiated by Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Do you remember what he said to you initially when he first introduced himself?
I think he wanted me to put up this was a call, if I have the sequencing correct, that a campaign sign for someone for school board.
Anything else that you recall that introduced the subject matter of the Stephen Avery case?
I really don't recall how it came up.
Okay. Look at that. Look at the first sentence, if you would. He says,
Okay.
he called you on the afternoon
Oh, okay.
of September 11th to tell you that there was an article in the Herald Times Reporter about the Avery case and that Avery had been released. Do you see?
That may have been how it started.
Okay.
I really don't recall that much about the conversation.
Okay. But in any event, you're not disagreeing with the first sentence.
I wouldn't disagree with it.
All right. And then he says in this memo that you told him that you were already aware of the article and about Stephen Avery being released.
Correct.
Then he says, we chatted about unrelated matters.
Right.
Probably about the political campaign, right?
Perhaps.
Okay. Any other unrelated matters that you remember?
I don't recall.
All right.
I don't have much recollection of the call.
Then he says that your future plans, your health, your exercise regimen, he told you things about his family. Do you remember all of that occurring?
No.
All right. Then he says, Doug Jones was trying to close the conversation, you told him that you would retain the drawing.
Yes.
Do you remember telling him that?
No.
At the time that you spoke to him, you in fact had the drawing, though.
Yes.
All right. Had he asked you to keep it?
No.
Do you know why you told him that you would retain the drawing?
I would imagine we were anticipating this event.
Meaning that the question of the drawing would come up
Sure.
in subsequent legal proceedings.
Of course.
All right. He goes on and says, referring to you, he then told me that in 95 or 96, Andy Colborn had told Tom Kusche, former Manitowoc County Sheriff, that an officer from Brown County had told Colborn that Allen and not Avery might have actually committed the Beardson assault. Okay? That is what Exhibit 124 says, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you, in fact, tell that to?
You cut out, Rhonda.
Oh, okay. Did you in fact tell that to Douglas Jones?
I don't recall.
All right. Does seeing this document 124 refresh your recollection?
No.
He's such a piece of shit. All right. Do you have any reason to disbelieve what this document says you told Doug Jones?
I recall Colborn saying something to me, and I might have said something to him on the side. I don't know if Tom Kosurik's name came into it. I don't recall that.
All right. Anything else with respect to that sentence that
Again, that's all I can
you
recall.
knew about Gregory Allen in 1995 or 96?
No,
Because Tom Colborn told you.
no, he didn't tell me that in 95, 96.
Okay, then,
He said he had the conversation in 95, 96.
all right.
I didn't hear about it till in passing, talking to Andy at one time, something being said probably within a matter of a couple 3 months of this conversation occurring.
What happened within a couple 3 months of this conversation?
Andy making a comment to me about this because I said this thing comes up with conversation, and he may have said something, and it would not have necessarily have been important to me that I would file it away for future memory. It might have just been a side comment at the end of a telephone conversation. But I did not receive that information in 95, 96. At that time, I was chief investigator and would have done something. And then I made this comment. I probably asked him, was Link or who was my replacement aware of this? And that's how I would imagine I said that Detective Link was aware. He was not that until he didn't take command of that bureau until 2003.
You made a statement in the course of that long narrative answer that within 2 or 3 months of this time, he told me.
I would say
within 2 or 3 months of what time?
of this telephone conversation that I had with Doug Jones.
So your testimony is that within 2 or 3 months prior to September 18th of 2003, Colborn told you this?
Made a comment on something to that effect.
So this is before there's been any public knowledge or information, 2 to 3 months before there's been any public knowledge or information that Stephen Avery has been exonerated. And you're telling us that Colborn told you, hey, listen, back in 95 or 96, I found out that
when it came out, it happened I'm assuming 2 or 3 months. I don't know. After the information about Avery came out and before this conversation with Jones, that comment was made.
Well, it's an absolute fact that the first time the district attorney found out about the results of the DNA examination was on September 3rd of 2003.
Okay, I have no...
And this document, look at it. This document, sorry. Look this man. This document dated September 18th is referring to a conversation between you and Doug Jones that took place on September 11th, 2003. Do you see that?
Yes, I see that.
So you're telling us that
I don't...
Colborn spoke to you before anybody knew anything about Stephen Avery being exonerated?
I don't know when it occurred. It happened before this it may have happened that day.
So you're changing your prior testimony that it was 2 to 3 months before this conversation.
I don't know. It happened before it. It happened after I left my position and before that conversation. Anytime in there.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't know. I told you, I don't have very specific recollection of this conversation.
Well, you seem to have recovered some of your recollection about it. Apparently, Colborn identified Allen to you.
I don't know that he identified Allen to me. I'm saying what my recollection was of this conversation, which is not very strong, was that Colborn made a comment to me about getting some information.
Yeah. Okay.
And I related it in the phone conversation.
Okay. So the statement goes on and says, the next sentence says, Gene stated, that's you,
Mm-hmm.
that Colborn was told by Kosaric something to the effect that we already have the right guy and he should not concern himself. Now,
That
did Colborn tell that to you?
I don't recall it.
Did you tell that to Doug Jones?
I don't recall it.
Do you have any reason to believe that Doug Jones would misrecord what you told him?
No.
Okay, then it goes on to say that Doug Jones asked you if this information was known. Do you remember him asking you that?
No.
Then it goes on to say that you said Link, MTSO Lieutenant James Link, Detective Bureau Command Officer, was aware. Did you tell that to Doug Jones?
If he put it in there, I probably did.
And was that the basis for your knowledge about that?
It would had to have been from Andy Colborn.
Did you talk with Lank about whether or not Lank was aware of this?
No.
All right. At any time?
Not to my recollection.
Okay. And then the statement goes on and says, he did not indicate in any way when Lank first learned about Colborn and Kosaric's conversation. Is that true?
I wouldn't know.
All right. On late Thursday afternoon, he says, he found Mark Rohrer and apprised him of the conversation with Gene, referring to you. And then he says, by the time I found Mark, he indicated that he'd already been made aware of conversation between Colborn and Kosaric.
Okay.
Did he tell you that?
No.
That you remember, he did not tell you that.
Not to my recollection.
Okay. Now, you just testified a moment ago that you had been in office at the time, and and chief investigator, that you would have had to do something about the information, right?
If there's information on somebody else having committed the crime, yes.
Well, and that's what this is saying. This is what this information.
No, that's not what that's saying. I did not have any information prior to my retirement that someone else committed the crime.
Oh, that was an ambiguous question on my part. What I'm saying to you is the information that Colborn had about Greg Allen might have been the actual assailant rather than Stephen Avery would be information about someone having committed a crime.
Object to the form.
Specifically, Greg Allen.
Same objection.
I'm not really following that.
Well, let's posit this.
All right.
Let's say that it's before May of 2003 and you're the chief investigator.
Yes.
And an officer within the department comes and says to you, an officer in Brown County called me and told me Greg Allen did the Penny Berenson assault, not Stephen Avery. Your testimony is you would have to do something about that then.
Yes.
Okay. And you would have to draw up a report of having received that information from one of your subordinates.
Of course.
And you would have to follow up on that lead. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So the fact that you received this information when you did would not cause you to have to do that. You're saying because you were no longer in office.
If the information here is that Link was aware of it, I may have asked if that occurred. I'm assuming that from this report.
Okay. Did you, in fact, at any time have any discussion with the subject matter of Exhibit 124 with Tom Kosaric?
No.
Did you, at any time, have any dealings with Jim Gospodarek about the Stephen Avery case?
No.
Did you ever have any conversations with him about the Stephen Avery case of any kind?
Other than the fact that he had taken a four-wheeler down to the beach.
In connection with the investigation?
That's correct.
When did you have that conversation with Gospodarek?
I was aware he did it. It would have been after he did it, maybe after I did the sketch, and maybe a day or two later. I also did some neighborhood canvassing, and I think that other than that, I had no other contact with reference to the investigation.
Well, you participated in the execution of the search warrant on the morning of July 30th, didn't you?
I recall being there. What the level of my participation was, I really don't recall.
And you interviewed all of the witnesses that were provided on the Stephen Avery witness list.
No, I didn't.
Prior to the trial.
No, I didn't.
Did you serve subpoenas on the Stephen Avery witnesses?
Yes.
Did you talk with them when you served the subpoenas?
Don't believe so.
All right. You
Okay,
participated in the canvas.
Let's pause here. We're a good halfway point, I think, and we're moving into 9 p.m. and I didn't want to go any longer, so let's pause here. Line 7, page 83. How about that? Is that okay, everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Well, I wanted to cover a little ground here because Kelly brought up a really good point. And that the fact is that we've discussed this before, and I don't want to get deep in this conversation, but it's just an observation. If Kusche was the chief investigator and this call came in, how could he have not heard about it and responded to it in 95? He was a chief investigator.
Yeah,
I just don't.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't work for me. And I can't prove anything other than I see the call and I see nothing after that.
Yeah, I don't know. We just like seriously, Scoob.
Yeah, you're right on it, Scoob.
Yeah. It's just a typical I don't recall, I don't remember. That's not what response from everybody else. Only he, Kusche had a bigger role than what he's recalling, quote unquote.
Well, yeah, the tracing is proof of that for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I know not everybody out there in the world believes it's a tracing, but look at the hair. All you gotta do is look at the hair that he drew on Stephen Avery, and
he's that good. I'm kidding.
Apparently,
yeah.
Apparently you are. Apparently you are, Mr. Kusche.
So good that he's just like annoyingly proud of himself.
Oh, absolutely.
It's I don't know.
I'm confused. What about the conversation or the interviews or whatever that Kusche did back in the 90s? Didn't he do some kind of interviews back then, or do I have that mixed up? There's something that Christina found.
Yeah, that's that interview. Those interviews I got linked in the description that he did with Kolanzik, Jadowski, Fred Nicholson. These were detectives that were there at the time in '85 and moving forward. And that's the one where the district attorney had asked him to do these interviews of these guys, which again I think is just weird. I don't really fully understand it.
That doesn't make sense to me either, but I've only been doing this kind of stuff for, 8 years now, so, I have a long way to go still.
Same here. I'm not a detective. I don't pretend to be. I graduated from Ripper's onshore detective. I got a I've got a master's degree now, but that in the real world, that don't mean anything.
Well, I don't know. I think this is going to sound like I'm going off topic, and I kind of am in a sense, but I've in the past when I've watched different trials, like live trials, and I'm attempting to answer either misunderstandings or misrepresentations of the law, and it's something that I'm confident that I know the answer to, or that I know for sure. I'll type that in the chat. Now, nobody has come out, not to my recollection, because I don't recall. It happened to me too. I don't really know that anybody has, like in a friendly sort of way said, "Oh, Rhonda, just Rhonda, are you a lawyer?" Or, nothing like that. But I've heard a lot, there's been a lot of people, "Oh, let's all stop and listen to just Rhonda. She's got a law degree," and blah, blah, which irritates the hell out of me, because
Sure.
those are some of the same people who are, saying, giving incorrect information or don't understand the law. And I'm just talking some basic things here, not like stuff that you have to go to law school for.
Correct.
But I did take one course as a part of my criminal justice degree. I had to take one course in law, and I've learned a ton from Cherie and Travis. And by virtue of the fact of all the trial transcripts that we've read, on foul play for Stephen and Brendan, all the hearings that we've read, just all the stuff that, that we've done in Daniel's case, and what I've learned from that, as far
You
as law goes,
naturally pick it up.
you do. You start picking up on it, and you start learning things, and you start learning things that are that are general things about the law. And I'll tell, and honestly, I don't want anybody getting all their panties in a twist, but I learned a ton about courtroom procedures and laws and different things like that in the Depp v. Heard case. I mean, because we watched, some of us watched that trial from day one to the verdict. So, I learned a lot, but my whole point is that, and from my recollection, it is strange that TJ says he has a MA and BS. I have that MA as well. But anyway, it just seemed weird to me too that that the DAs would be asking him to
Do these interviews?
to do those interviews. Yeah. It just
Absolutely.
seemed like abnormal to me. Hi, Sheila. It's great to see you.
Hey, Sheila, thanks for coming. It is. I mean, I like I said before, I know some counties that's just the way it's ran, but they have their own investigators. They don't call over to the sheriff's department and say, "You need to interview these guys that work for you," basically. I don't know. I just, and I don't know if I can't. Well, actually, in either the 85 or the 2005 cases, I don't remember that happening at all. Just this in this instance. I'm not saying it didn't. And maybe we just don't have access to it.
Right.
But,
yeah. I don't know. Cherie, I mean, you're the attorney on the panel, so not worried.
T1.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I actually learned things from our everything that we do and listen to that I can use in my own cases, in court. So it's very educational.
But
Has
related to Kusche, doing or I keep saying Kusche doing those interviews, though. I mean, does that seem like, I don't know, out of place or abnormal? I'm not saying illegal, but I don't know.
I'm just confused because it sounds like he's saying that it was, he was there the night for the
assault.
photographs, and kind of makes it sound like he didn't really have a lot to do with it other than drawing his composite. But and then didn't really talk or hear much about it until this happened. That's what it kind of sounded like to me when they realized that the DNA wasn't Stevens.
Well, yeah, he's trying to. I mean, to me, it's like he's trying to distance himself from the 85 case,
Yeah.
except for the drawing, tracing.
Except for that.
By
That
tracing.
is
That was on his wall. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's so
I mean-
proud. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm making fun of him when maybe I would do the same thing. I have no idea. But not if I literally traced a picture
Hell
and
no.
then tried to hang it and present it like it was something that I drew. I mean, I just think that's kind of.
I'd run from it. Like,
Yeah, you
yeah,
should.
oh yeah. I remember doing that drawing, yeah, vaguely, but I really wasn't involved in that case.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was proud of that thing because he took it home, brought it back to the office, displayed it. I don't know, but this guy's he's no, you can tell he's no dumbass. So he's trying to wiggle himself. And then we get into here before we stopped. He's had this conversation with Colborn prior to anything, just right prior to anything being released publicly. That's weird.
Yeah. Well, and I know we're coming up with some what we'll be reading next time. The emails with Doug Jones. From my recollection, there's some interesting information in there, or interesting revelations. Maybe? I don't know. I just seem to remember there was something pretty significant about the emails between that Doug Jones. It might have only been one email now that I think about it, but you know what I'm talking about? Probably not.
Yeah, I remember something, but I can't put my finger on it. It's been too long since I've read this one. Well, I'd really like to have the full video.
Oh, I know. Yeah, because his mannerisms, you can tell just by the clips that we saw in MAM.
Yep.
You can tell that his animated body movements and whatnot are
facial expressions,
informational. Yeah, very tell to me what I remember says quite a bit.
They're tells, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Not trying to say I'm reading body language from him, but I mean it's just natural that if we're uncomfortable with something, it's normal for, a body or a face or, something to behave certain ways, or if we're excited about a thing or
see a reaction from someone. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just from what little bit we saw in MAM, he's very expressive from what I can remember.
Very.
More so, I think, than any of the others. I'm thinking back to, clips that we've seen of all of the others. And I mean, except for, who was it, Vogel or Roar, I think, like loosening the neck of his shirt and choking to death with the top. Except for that one, I feel like the rest of them just were like sitting there like lumps
Roar
on log.
looked like he was about to die and fall on the floor.
Okay, so it was Roar that I'm thinking of. Yeah. He was choking to death,
He was bad shape. I thought he was going to have to call an ambulance to get the defib on him. He looked bad.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't remember any animation in any of them. So when I think about those depositions and then take them and compare them to the clips I've seen of that we've seen of Kusche, very big difference. He seemed to be very, a lot of movement and a lot of animation in his, when he spoke and when he.
Yes, that's right.
I don't know. Anyway, I agree. Having the video of his would be really, really interesting.
Well, several of them, actually, I'd like to have them all, but there's definitely some key ones I would like to have for sure.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
anyway. Alrighty. Comments from anyone else before we get out of here and have some pizza and so forth and so on?
Well, I don't know if what I'm having. It's warm outside, and so my family, there may not be a meal cooked at my house. But
Well,
I just want to say,
there's always DoorDash.
yeah, oh, even when I have the money and can like kind of afford it, screw DoorDash, man. It's gotten so expensive. But I just want to say, if it's okay, I want to remind everyone about Thursday night, 5 p.m. Central,
Please.
over on my channel, Just Rhonda. We have discussed 2 episodes now of one of the really big, I don't ever know how to say it, important or more high profile accusations of Daniel's case. It's taking a while to kind of unwind and untwist her accusations. So I think I've pretty much done that now from 2 weeks ago and then this past week. And so I might just be doing a wrap up on all of that this coming Thursday. And well, I know I've missed you, Sheila. That's okay though. But it's going to get really, so we'll wrap up. I think we'll do like a wrap up of Brian Bates Investigates review of Tabitha Barnes' case. But after that, we're going to start reading some of the transcripts of the preliminary, and that's how we usually do it. We review the accusation and all those things, and then we'll read the preliminary transcript of that person, the preliminary trial, and then we'll go into the trial testimony transcripts. And I feel like I say this every time, but her case is so twisted isn't the right word. It can be a word. Convoluted is another word, but it's still not the right. I might have to make up a word because it's so crazy and unbelievable and remarkable, and it's just so
okay.
full of.
I got a word for you. Contwistellated.
Contwistellated. Let's go with that. Jack made up a new word. Contwistellated. So yeah, just hopefully, folks from Foul Play are interested in Daniel's case, because it's just as horrible of a wrongful conviction case.
In many ways, it's worse. In many ways, it's much worse, in my opinion.
Well, in some aspects, I feel like it is too. I don't ever like to say that because I'm not trying to upset anybody in the Avery and Dassey camps, because those are horrific cases, of course. But yeah, it's what they've done to Daniel is just is.
I'm talking about from a legal standpoint, putting all 13 of these so-called accusers, or whatever how you want to label it, in one trial, and then everything else that was going on, and they did. There's just so much legally I have issue with. Yeah. Anyway, yep.
Yeah, I agree.
And I promise this upcoming week, short of my leg getting chopped off, I'll be there this week. Hopefully, nothing else is going to happen. I've missed the last 2 weeks, so I should be back.
You know what? I understand. I've been missing from here too for a couple of weeks, so I understand. And the warmer the weather gets, the more the harder it is to be.
Well, folks are outside doing things. They got outside activities and so forth. I understand.
So anyway, we'll wrap up the trying to untwist and put her accusations and stuff all together. We'll do that on Thursday, and then we'll start getting into some really crazy trial testimony. And for those of you who are members of the channel, those of you who have joined, thank you so much. Again, all that money is going to purchases of transcripts and legal funds to help Daniel's post-conviction. And so that's what every bit of that will go to. And so I appreciate you guys so much. You have your own special little, I don't know if you've seen them, Jack. You need to check them out. I'm so proud of myself. But I was able to figure out how to make that, what are they called? Like emojis or
Oh yeah.
special emojis for the members to use in the chat. And they're pretty good. I think I did a good job. And so thank you all for who have joined the channel. You don't have to join, but I would absolutely appreciate a subscribe if you can, and like the videos, all those things that I used to think really didn't matter, but I'm learning that they do. So check us out next Thursday, 5 p.m. Central, and we'll try to wrap up just the story of the accusations themselves for you. So, sorry, there you go. That's all.
Oh, thank you, Rhonda. Absolutely.
Thank you.
5 p.m. Central. Cherie, any final words, thoughts?
Well, I can't wait to read the rest of this. It's interesting, even though it makes you angry. It's interesting, and I've never read it, the whole thing. But very good.
I agree. I've read it a couple of times, but it's been a long time since I've read this one through.
When did you? Next week, or are you gonna skip a week?
Yeah, we'll probably try to do it sometime either during the week or next Sunday, one of the two. If I've got time and can work it in. Maybe Wednesday. I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, right now, let's just plan on next Sunday and just finishing this up.
Okay.
Something changes, I'll try to let everyone know.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you too for reading, and Jay, really appreciate it. Jay, final thoughts?
I just found it was an interesting read, But Colborn's was short and sweet.
Yeah.
So, but he doesn't know how to write reports anyway, so he probably forgot about everything else.
Well, he keeps everything in his head. There's lots of.
That was so dumb.
It was.
He keeps everything in his head, but he couldn't remember if it was Brown County or Sheboygan.
Yeah. Being a patrol sergeant, you'd think he would have. Training to, jot stuff down, because, a person just can't remember, especially if you're really busy like a cop. Hard to remember everything, man.
Yeah, for sure.
That's typical of him, though.
Yeah, it really is. All righty. Well, thank you, Jay, for also helping out Reed.
No problem.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I want to take just 1 second, and I don't want this. I mean this. Everyone that's out there, there's been a lot of people that have been, on the open mic since the beginning, since we launched it way back when, and I never really even considered still being here this long. 200 episodes, and there's a couple of side episodes in there that are open mics that didn't. I mean, they're, regardless. I can't thank you enough, for sticking around and being part of. The whole conversation, because that's really what it's about, the open mic. We haven't just discussed the Avery Dassey cases. We've discussed other things as well. Now, we haven't done that in a while. I've really tried to focus in on things surrounding the calls and the jail calls. Those have come in. We don't really play those much, but the dispatch calls between the two departments, looking at DCI reports. There's so many things that we've covered, because the cases in themselves, I've had to, just for my own sanity, divide these things up into categories over time. That way it helps me to keep things clear in my head. But these cases are so complicated. It's you can do some multiple layering in one episode if it's about a specific thing, kind of like Doc and Demerly are doing with reading with the crew, and Frack's book. He pulls in reports. They pull in reports from these various agencies, and that's really good. But for me, this is what I've tried to concentrate on here, especially in the last. I'm going to say, I won't say totally, but we covered the Colborn Netflix lawsuit. We covered that in depth. There were so many emotions spilled in that. Oh my God! I know Rhonda, and I know Cherie, because she was pulling these documents. It's like crazy. She'd be coming on and be like, "I've got more stuff," and I'd be like, "Oh my God!" So that was crazy. There's so many, really interesting things that we've been through, but I appreciate it. It was never really a thought in my mind at the time that this is where we'd be and how much ground we've covered, and we'll continue to cover as long as people are interested in the conversation. I have a real interest in the true crime, not mainly these cases, because when you start complicating your life with a bunch of other complicated cases, it really gets difficult and it's really hard. So, but nonetheless, we're going to continue down this path no matter where it goes, and we'll see where we get to. When we get to, we're going to finish this up. I don't know if I'm going to start another project before we continue and get through the dispatch calls. I probably won't, so we can move a little harder. There may be a few other little side projects, but I'm not planning on anything major right yet. Got a couple of marbles rolling around in my head, me and my big mouth, as Zoe would say. But yeah, I really appreciate it. The mods, I can't thank you enough for the work you do. It's just so much help, dropping the links and being so fast. Cherie and Supermod Catnet and
Catnet is on fire. Her and Cherie.
Yeah.
Like if I need something in a quick hurry, I know who to.
Bam.
I don't even have to ask. I just say, "Gosh, I wish I had," and boom, I have it. So they're amazing.
Right. Well, you too, Rhonda. When a lot of times when you're just modding, not doing so much talking, you're really good too. So there's several of you that really take care of business, in the live chat, and it's such a help, So anyway, I just wanted to thank everyone for all the work and using your free time to do this. It's something that I've been passionate about for many years. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't believe. We haven't heard the truth. We don't have the full story. We're still this many years in, and I think we're closer to the truth, but we've still got a mountain to cover, a pretty large one. And will we ever get it? I don't know. I'm hoping that we will, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks from one old man to all of you out there, all of you in here. I really appreciate it. And if nothing else, I want to say this has been a Foul Play production.